When our society is rotting from the inside, good exists, but so does evil. Yet some gifted heroes rise. Meet Jade, a champion blessed with extreme speed. He casually orders the police officers to stand down and let him work. The panicked criminals scream, one single move and they will slaughter the hostages. But they have no idea, this supposed savior is hiding a dark secret. Jade is actually a ruthless killer wearing a hero's mask. In a flash, he strikes. He ruthlessly slaughters everyone in the room, hostages included, absolutely zero mercy shown. He laughs, claiming that without annoying hostages in the way, he can finally administer justice. But a shadow is already watching his blood-stained hands. Her name is Iwa. Her master promised that defeating this corrupt speedster would fully complete her training. Without a second thought, Iwa charges out to hunt down her target. If heroes cleanse the world of villains, then who hunts down the corrupt heroes? That is her job, and right now, she's crashing Jade's private victory party. Heavy guards try to block her path, but ordinary humans cannot stop her. Nothing can withstand Iwa's burning hatred for these fake protectors. Meanwhile, Jade relaxes. He is enjoying his party, but a sudden noise catches everyone's attention. Jade growls that she will pay for this, immediately throwing a heavy punch. She blocks the strike with both hands, leaving him utterly stunned. Realizing she is just a kid, Jade is shocked as Iwa mocks his speed. He completely missed the fast counterattack she landed during that brief clash. Annoyed, he asks if she is with the notorious villain association. It does not matter anyway, because he plans to end her life right here. But to truly understand Iwa's driving fury, we have to look back. She sat on the cold floor beside her sister's lifeless body, eyes burning. A man in a wheelchair appeared, asking if she wanted bloody vengeance. Iwa whispered yes, if such a thing was even possible for her. He questioned how she would ever find the killer among so many heroes. Her cold reply was simple: she would hunt them down one by one. Back in the present, Iwa glares at Jade, determined to get her answers. She lunges forward, throwing a powerful, direct punch straight at his face. Jade blocks the fist easily and mocks her, asking if this is a game. He retaliates instantly, slamming his massive fist squarely into her face. The devastating impact sends her flying back. Jade laughs, asking if that is all. Iwa quickly scrambles to her feet to block his next brutal strike. She grabs a nearby fire extinguisher and hurls it straight at him. It explodes violently on impact, forcing Jade to shield his eyes. He recovers, but her very next strike seemingly connects right on target. Yet Jade suddenly vanishes, appearing right behind her and launching her upward. He sneers, asking what made her think she could ever defeat him. She answers with a fast spinning kick, but his reaction is immediate. He asks if she honestly believes she is the first challenger to try this. Another direct punch crushes her face as he boasts about killing his opponents. He relentlessly beats her on the ground with his bare fists. Clenching his fist, he decides this is finally enough torture. He extends his palm, coldly ordering her to die. Suddenly, things shift. He sat chained before a guillotine, Yua watching him in silence as a question formed. What in the world was that? The girl stood up, declaring she understood his power. Her eyes locked onto her opponent. The heavy realization of danger finally hit him. He knew he had to escape, desperately trying to scramble away from her. But Yua caught up instantly. Watch this, her hand passed straight through his face. Jade recoiled in shock, gripping his face where the phantom blow had landed. He stumbled back to keep distance, while Yua calmly stood and watched. He asked if she was just playing. Yua countered with her own cold question. Did I not have permission to? He swore to kill her, lunging forward blindly. Yua countered him instantly, sending him crashing hard to the ground. He heard her question his rank, without looking back. She walked away, saying she would be deeply disappointed by such weak heroes. Jade lay completely frozen on the ruined ground, unable to move at all. A mysterious hand touched his chest. Shadowy figures slowly began to seize him. They held him tight, whispering that his long list of victims demanded his life. Now it was his turn to die. With a sudden surge, he broke free. He ran desperately, trying to escape their dark, grasping hands. He kept running, searching for any escape. Holding his head, Yua spoke coldly. She called him a rabid dog, ending this fight once and for all. She hoped he would return as a decent human. Now, Yua stood atop the ruins. Jade's lifeless body lay on the shattered ground. Firmly, she spoke. She told the man in the wheelchair that there was no going back now. He warned that other heroes would hunt her down. They would be relentless. They are far stronger than Jade. He asked if she was truly prepared. Let them come, Yua replied. In a flashback, he handed her a sharp blade. She declared herself a hero killer, gripping the weapon with a deadly promise. Anyone standing in her path would die. Back in the present, Yua stood alone. She stood in an alley surrounded by fresh bodies, looking down with absolute contempt. She did not care how powerful they were. Soon, the police arrived. Yellow tape cordoned off the battlefield as investigators gathered around Jade's body. They noted his successor had already been chosen. One man expressed deep shock. He was surprised by the speed, but the other shrugs it off as normal. That was just how things worked. They hoped the new hero would be normal. The other agreed. Meanwhile, Chaos despaired over his fallen friend's body. He demanded to know what happened, clutching the cold corpse in agony. He screamed to know who did this. Jade desperately whispered a final breath. Jade succumbed, questioning the answer. Chaos slowly rose to his feet. He held Jade's head high, speaking to his men in a chillingly calm voice. Do not worry, he whispered. Chaos covered his face, swearing absolute vengeance. He licked the blood from his fingers. Suddenly, a strange vision appeared. A silver-haired girl materialized, her face growing sharper now. Finally, Yua's face was fully revealed. Chaos trembled with pure rage. A dark smile spread across his face as he muttered that he found her. Most heroes belong to the powerful clan, bound strictly by their direct orders. Winning the ancient war against villains, they secured absolute rule for centuries. Soon, their faces plastered every corner. These elites basically ruled the entire world. She washed off, trying to process everything. It was all so incredibly bizarre. A whole week had gone by, a whole week since she killed Jade. Yet the news stayed quiet. It was like nothing had even happened. A single question burned. Were they just too afraid to show weakness? Or was Jade just another disposable tool to them, just like her sister? Iwa uncapped a marker, striking a dark line straight through Jade's face. They won't ignore me for long, she muttered under her breath. With a sharp, determined look, she stared at her wall of targets. Let them send whoever they want. Iwa was more than ready. Later, the neon sign of a quiet bar called Get Back flickers. Inside, the bartender wiped down the counter right as the front door opened. Iwa stepped inside. The old man greeted her, noting she was early today. Tying on her apron, she teased her master about having 0 customers again. The older man lightly scoffed, then subtly pointed to a single patron. Iwa rolled her eyes, asking if he really had to be that sarcastic. She muttered she was heading back to check the inventory. But that lone customer was actually Chaos, deeply engrossed in his newspaper. As the master turned away, the young killer suddenly aimed a gun right at him. Tilting his head, he brazenly stuck his tongue out. Iwa gasped, recognizing him instantly. In a flash, she materialized right behind him, pressing a blade to his throat. He just smirked, calling her pretty cute for someone trying to kill him. Did the Heroes clan send you? Iwa demanded, her voice cold. Chaos noticed her absolute calm, realizing she had just copied Jade's unique power. Her gift was stealing abilities, and he calmly suggested that she put the knife away. He handed her a folded note, telling her to meet tomorrow. Don't bring anyone else, he warned, before quietly vanishing. Her master rushed over to ask what happened, but Iwa quietly brushed it off. Later, she tightly balled up the note, showing the meetup spot. The destination was a locked, fenced-off zone, utterly ruined and silent. Iwa walked through the debris. Suddenly, she spun around on high alert. She was staring directly into a sniper's crosshairs from the building opposite. Chaos watched her, muttering that she was pretty good before pulling the trigger. The heavy round tore through the air, screaming straight toward her. By a fraction of an inch, Iwa dodged the deadly projectile. Chaos instantly chambered another round. Sliding low, she dove behind an AC unit. Angling a car's side mirror, she mapped the exact sniper nest. Another supersonic bullet whizzed past, shattering a nearby metal pipe. She estimated the distance was at least 2,000 yards. Gripping a small device with 3 spheres, she whispered that this should do it. Charging it with raw energy, Iwa hurled the weapon with everything she had. The building near Chaos exploded. He laughed, shouting that things were finally getting fun. Grinning wildly through the smoke, he called her an absolute monster. He couldn't believe such massive destruction came from a simple steel sphere. Back on the street, Iwa readied her next move. Chaos stared in disbelief. The clan wanted him to miss out on the action. Quickly, he took cover and reloaded. He peered through his scope, searching for where she was hiding. Suddenly, a loud noise caught his ear. echoing from the stairs below. He spun around, questioning his own eyes as someone rushed up. Iwa charged up the steps. Chaos dropped his rifle and grabbed a shotgun. As she burst into the corridor, he aimed the weapon straight at her. He fired, but she deflected the shotgun blast with her blade. With one swift strike, she sent the weapon flying from his hands. Chaos tried to draw his pistol, but Iwa slammed her forehead into his face. The brutal impact threw him backward against a pillar. You could almost feel that hit. Blade in hand, Iwa prepared to speak, but he instantly cut her off. He smiled and offered a simple hello. Annoyed, she snapped back, "Go to hell." Iwa lunged forward with her knife, but Chaos quickly slipped to the side. Right then, 2 gaping holes tore through a nearby pillar, and hands burst out. Iwa quickly blocked the sudden surprise attack with her blades. A hooded man phased straight through the solid stone, instantly launching an assault. This unique ability allowed him to slip right through any solid object. However, this strange power had absolutely no effect on living beings. With a rapid spin, Iwa grabbed him and threw him across the hall. He landed gracefully on his feet, adjusting his gloves. This was Viper. Iwa turned to Chaos, asking if they were supposed to fight alone. Chaos asked why she was not using Jade's power. She claimed she was. But Chaos immediately saw right through her. She was unable to use it. Without hesitation, Iwa lunged at Viper, but he easily slipped her punch. Chaos watched closely, realizing her stolen power must have a strict cooldown. Or perhaps a limited number of uses. Viper struck her hand quickly. He countered with a taunt. If she had nothing left, she could die. The heavy impact sent her stumbling backward, seeing a sudden opening. Iwa bolted toward a nearby window and threw herself right through the glass. As she fell out of the building, a sudden realization hit Chaos. She only needed to touch someone to steal their ability. Viper watched her flee. "There is no time to lose," Viper urged. "We must pursue her." He then asked if this secret hunt was why the clan was bypassed. Chaos simply flashed a smile, saying he was glad Viper actually showed up. His grin widened as he muttered that the hunt was just beginning. Hiding in the shadows, Iwa coughed heavily, struggling to catch her breath. She cursed her naivety for not expecting him to bring backup. Viper was dangerous, and his phasing skill made him almost impossible to hit. Knowing she was cornered, she had to make a move. She drew her twin daggers with cold determination. Chaos would be the first. Down on the street below, Viper suddenly spun around, sensing her nearby. He shot forward, phasing right back up through the shattered window frame. But Iwa was already gone. She was already back down on the street. Her voice rang out through the cold air as she screamed Chaos's name. Chaos answered with a heavy volley of gunfire, unleashing chaos upon her. Bullets rain down, but Iwa deflects every single shot with her blade. Without a single moment's pause, she continues pressing her fast attack. Her blade sinks into Chaos's shoulder, though she misses the next strike. Muttering that she was too far, she suddenly sees Viper behind her. He punches her face while Chaos quickly seizes the moment. Grabbing her from behind, Chaos declares that it is finally over. From a distance, a lone figure silently watches the entire scene unfold. They wonder if saving her is worth clashing with the hero clan. Meanwhile, another man in a black coat approaches the area. He remarks on strength in numbers, calling her a valuable resource. Right then, Iwa struggles in Chaos's grip and lashes out. She desperately jabs her fingers straight toward his eyes before leaping away. This creates some much-needed distance between her and her captors. She attacks immediately, but Viper effortlessly sidesteps the blow. Undeterred, she keeps pressing, throwing small projectiles at his chest. Without stopping for a single second, she lands another heavy hit on his chest. Chaos watches the exchange, a chilling laugh bubbling from his throat. He sneers and tosses a grenade her way, taunting her to catch it. The explosion rocks the entire area, but Iwa leaps clear just in time. Through the rising smoke, Viper advances and lunges forward. He delivers a crushing kick that sends her sprawling to the ground. Standing over her, Viper looks down with a pretty grim expression. Calling her persistent, he says he understands how she killed Jade. He grabs her throat brutally, telling her she is dangerous. He warns she will only get worse, so they must stop her. But look at that, an armored figure suddenly appears behind him. Before Viper can even react, the figure strikes his head. Viper's body collapses, lifeless, as a young woman joins them. She stands by the armored giant, asking what else they could be. From his hiding spot, Chaos watches their arrival in absolute shock. Staring at the young man with a scarred face, he touches his own cheek. He finally realizes they are villains, while a voice mentions her bone density. This trait is common for ability users, as Iwa slowly opens her eyes. Inside the room, a doctor notes her bullet wound is already healed. He mentions that Sinclair was the one who changed her clothes. Deciding to give her supplements, he begins searching his tray. Wearing a gas mask, he searches through a tray of sharp scalpels. He finally finds the tool, but wait, the bed is suddenly empty. Iwa has a scalpel pressed against him, but he stays perfectly calm. He instructs her to flatten the blade, explaining she might hit his ribs. Iwa keeps the sharp blade aimed at him, demanding to know where she is. In response, he simply asks if she has ever heard of the Nameless. He explains that they are basically survivors of a massive war. A conflict fought between the hero clan and the villain association. Though only one actually fought, he introduces himself as Vector. The doctor questions if she should show some gratitude to her savior. But Iwa remains still, tightly gripping the scalpel. Then a girl opens. Door announcing that Iwa is finally awake and that Ingen is. Looking for her, Vector suggests they go together, and as they walk, the girl points out how surprisingly relaxed Iwa seems. She even goes on, teasing that her apple might be poisoned, but Iwa replies that poison doesn't really affect her. The girl turns back, asking what she did with the core, to which Iwa casually admits she ate that too. The blonde girl finds her pretty amusing. Walking down a long corridor, Iwa stares down at her own palm, quietly assessing the situation and mapping out a quick escape route. Her eyes scan the area. She knows she can easily take down Vector within seconds, but the real threat is the girl walking right beside her. She hesitates, weighing her options, but a voice declares that it is already too late. The blonde girl swings open a heavy wooden door, loudly announcing their arrival. She welcomes Iwa to the Nameless hideout, eagerly introducing herself as Rachel Sinclair. Pointing to a stern-looking man, she introduces him as John Nash before proudly revealing that their leader is the legendary Ingen. Meanwhile, at the Hero Clan's 17th branch, a man angrily confronts Chaos. He demands to know how Chaos could just let Viper die like that. Chaos defends himself, explaining there was absolutely nothing he could do against such power. The branch manager warns him that Viper possessed massive potential, meaning the higher-ups won't let this slide so easily. Hearing this, Chaos pleads with the manager for help to clear his name. Lighting up a cigar, the manager laments ever taking this desk job, openly missing his glory days in the field. When he asks who is responsible for the kill, Chaos drops the name Ingen. The manager pauses, racking his brain to remember where he's heard that name. Suddenly, he drops his cigar in sheer shock, asking if he means the infamous smiling man. Chaos confirms it with a smirk, asking why. Losing his temper completely, the manager yells at Chaos for not telling him sooner. Before storming off and leaving him behind, a maximum alert goes out immediately. To summon every single hero in the branch, the smiling man has returned. Back at the hideout, Ingen tells them to cut the useless chatter. Sinclair instantly raises her hand, eagerly volunteering to test the newcomer's skills. She unsheathes a massive, menacing blade, declaring she's been waiting for this. Sinclair lunges forward, bringing her weapon down in a vicious strike. But Iwa easily weaves through the continuous flurry of deadly swings. With absolute precision, she blocks the hilt, then delivers a devastating strike. Following up her punch, Iwa unleashes a savage kick to her gut, sending Sinclair crashing hard against a wooden pillar. The silver-haired girl stops her assault, fist still clenched, as Sinclair lies defeated on the floor. Sinclair reaches up her hand, admitting defeat, while Iwa looks down calmly. They seal it with a silent handshake as Vector watches closely. With Iwa reflected in his mask, Vector claps his hands to signal the end of her trial. Iwa questions why he even saved her life. From the shadows, Ingen asks what she thinks they are trying to build here. To him, their goal was to crush the Hero Clan. Enin then dropped a massive bombshell. The clan murdered her sister. Glaring at him, Iwa demanded answers. How could he possibly know that? Meanwhile, Enin approached an ancient temple in the night. Stepping inside, he greeted a figure, quietly noting it had been quite a while. An elder in a wheelchair waited in the shadows, his expression completely cold. He assumed Enin was wondering why he had been summoned. Enin simply stared back. Meeting his gaze, he admitted he would be lying if he said otherwise. The elder then revealed that there was actually someone he hoped Enin could help out. Enin sarcastically asked if the old man had finally grown fond of his little trained pet. The old man remarked that Enin had grown far more arrogant lately. He then asked if Enin was finally ready to stop playing games and talk. Feeling the sudden tension rise, Enin tightly gripped the cold arm of his chair. Sitting down, he agreed to listen to whatever the old man had to say. The elder began to speak of her, suggesting she should be called the ultimate hero killer. In a firm tone, he described her as a born fighter with unbelievable willpower. He was certain she would play a massive role later. However, the old man warned that she was not yet ready. Facing much stronger opponents would surely lead to her swift end. So Enin had an incredibly difficult task. He had to raise this dangerous tiger cub. The ultimate goal was to crush the hero clan, but that meant facing her. As a warning, he asserted that leaving her alone would eventually cause his absolute ruin. Enin questioned if this so-called hero killer could truly reach her full potential. He agreed to the task, warning he would not be responsible if she broke. The elder quietly asked what exactly he meant by calling her broken. As Enin turned to leave, the old man noted she had already learned everything possible. He advised the young leader to try not to get destroyed by her. Once back at their secret hideout, Iwa stood her ground against Enin and his crew. Enin asked coldly if she truly wanted her revenge or just wanted to die. Iwa glared back, reminding him he still had not answered her question. Without warning, John lunged straight forward and threw a devastating, lightning-fast punch. Iwa barely dodged, reading his movement instantly. The fist stopped mere centimeters from her face before Enin called John off. He firmly told John to stand down, reminding him that he was speaking to her. The girl watched the chaos unfold, wondering how such misfits even stayed together. John warned he would not go easy next time, leaving Vector in despair. Vector despaired at this entire mess, but Sinclair laughed and told him to have some fun. Someone begged them to stop. Iwa knew why they rescued her. She realized they saved her for a task. They needed something they lacked. They needed information. Regardless, Iwa decided to take the lead. Vector raised his hands, stepping forward to explain what they wanted from her. He knew exactly what they wanted, and Iwa realized their entire plan in that instant. They would trade the answers she wanted in exchange for her terrifying strength. Watching from the side, Enin was impressed by her incredibly sharp mind. She finally agreed to the deal, asking what they were actually planning. Vector grinned, declaring they were going to completely destroy the 17th Division. Iwa wonders if they can actually pull this off with only 4 people. But Ingen quickly corrects her. Once they include her, they will be 5. Meanwhile, out in the dry desert, an elite hero asks about their upcoming schedule. Her assistant replies that their appointments are fully booked for 2 weeks. The blue-haired assistant apologizes, but her legendary superior quickly cuts her off. Victoria reassures her it is not her fault before sighing about her job. She complains that being the official face of the hero clan is exhausting. Suddenly, a violent tremor shakes the desert sand, making the assistant jump. Smiling, Victoria calmly remarks that their guests have finally arrived. Heavily armed military vehicles roar forward as a soldier readies his flamethrower. The enemy commander orders them to burn everything, preparing for a brutal clash. A soldier spots a lone woman ahead, but his leader orders her crushed. Victoria quietly watches them charge, calling their foolish assault a beautiful dream. Suddenly, a colossal sword drops from the heavens, embedding itself in the sand. She casually asks her assistant if there are any media cameras nearby. Gripping the hilt, she effortlessly spins the massive blade with total confidence. She smiles, realizing she does not need to hold back her power. Charging straight into the heavy vehicles, Victoria unleashes an absolute bloodbath. Standing amidst the burning wreckage, she mutters that she needs a cold drink. Back at base, John questions their choices, admitting his deep dislike for her. He then demands to know why Sinclair did not use her gift in battle. Sinclair honestly replies that she simply did not want to kill the woman. Sinclair actually finds Victoria quite beautiful and incredibly straightforward. Overhearing this, Vector scoffs, warning them that they will see her real side soon. He explains that every single one of Victoria's movements is highly calculated. Even her sudden outbursts of anger are probably just a carefully planned act. Sinclair looks confused, asking how he can be so absolutely sure about that. Vector taps his chest, revealing her heart rate never changed for a second. It remained perfectly steady from their first encounter until she finally left. Sinclair notes Iwa is the complete opposite of the calm, cold Ingen. But Ingen cuts her off coldly, raising his hand to silence her. With absolute authority, Ingen announces that the hero killer is joining them. She will be leading the charge on the 17th Division. Sinclair cheers at the news, while Vector simply rubs his tired face. Turning to John, Ingen delivers a chilling warning about striking without permission. He promises to end John personally if he dares to disobey him. Sinclair and Vector watch the terrifying interaction unfold in absolute silence. To break the tension, Vector invites Sinclair to grab some food. Later in the training gym, Iwa pushes herself through a grueling workout. She watches Ingen from afar, realizing his power is vastly superior. She quietly reflects on her path, knowing that even Viper was strong. But Ingen exists on an entirely different plane of destructive force. If there are heroes even stronger than him, can she ever close that gap? Clutching her stopwatch, she concentrates intensely to keep her stolen gift active. It stops at 7 minutes and 37 seconds as her strength completely fades. The body collapses heavily to the floor. It is an improvement, but still not enough. Suddenly, a promise flashes in her mind. Her sister's voice echoes, ordering Iwa to survive. Inside her head, that stubborn command keeps repeating, she must survive. Struggling against the pain, the young woman stands up, knowing this is only the beginning. Iwa realizes her own power grows stronger every time she steals from an opponent. She tightens her fist, swearing to take all their gifts and end them. And just like that, a creepy face slowly emerges from the dark shadows. Iwa steps right in front of the giant, towering silhouette. As shadowy figures creep through the thick mist, she strikes the first one. Her heavy blade cuts through without a single second of hesitation. She reaches out her hand, coldly promising to use them as stepping stones. The young woman vows to climb all the way to the top. Then, the scene shifts. We see the outside of a quiet bar named Get Back. Inside, it is empty. Behind the counter, an older man adjusts his glasses and asks if there was a fight. Already tied into her apron, Iwa quietly admits that yes, there was. He studies her silently for a moment before saying he will leave the rest to her. With that, he walks off, leaving the area empty as Iwa starts cleaning. She sweeps the floors of the quiet bar, her gaze drifting off to the side. While washing a window, she gets a sudden urge to finally speak her mind. A blunt question breaks the silence, asking if she plans on quitting. She freezes as memories of total chaos inside the bar flashback. Flashbacks of a blood-covered floor wash over her. Staring through the glass, Iwa answers. Iwa simply says yes. Bowing her head, she explains that she cannot stay here anymore. Now that her identity is exposed, staying is impossible. The man stares in silence. He remembers how desperately she begged to stay, even if it meant being a burden. The owner tells her she is welcome back anytime. Iwa notes they barely have customers anyway. She suggests he should drop by her new place, sometimes to take a quick break. The man jokes that he will still charge her, of course. Suddenly, chaos appears outside. He presses against the glass. The manager asks if that guy is her friend. Iwa pushes the door open, knowing deep down that he would definitely return. And trust me, she is absolutely not letting chaos have his way this time. With a lightning-fast strike, she slaps his face and grabs him midair. She lands a powerful kick that sends chaos reeling back. Then, she draws a blade. Iwa charges forward with her weapon, but her strike hits an invisible, glowing barrier. The shield blocks her right in front of his face. Chaos just smiles. Wondering why he came completely unarmed, Iwa turns to tell the boss she will be right back. The old man stands there holding a piece of clothing, quietly watching her leave. Later that night, the scene shifts outside. Chaos grabs a drink from a vending machine. He tosses a can over to Iwa, who cracks it open and takes a sip. Admiring the taste, she coldly warns him that he is crossing the line. Sitting calmly on a bench, Chaos admits he did not expect her to actually follow. Iwa looks away, telling him not to worry. He claims his last visit was just a joke. After all, he came completely unarmed. She still questions his true motives. She demands to know his goal. Suddenly, Viper's face flashes in her mind. This could finally be her perfect chance to avenge his tragic death. He finished his soda, tossing the idea aside. Iwa sat down at the other end. She immediately asks what he wants, but he just notes how eager she seems for answers. He promises not to drag things out. Chaos points a finger right at her. He looks her dead in the eye and says, "I want you to be my partner." Iwa just stares in dead silence. Chaos starts laughing, leaving her completely baffled. What is he even talking about? She asks if he is going to keep joking around. He insists he is dead serious. Then, the shadow of a shapeshifter appears on screen. Right after, we see another figure, someone capable of completely controlling fire. These are not normal powers. They are rare gifts only a chosen few possess. They are called Datavas, and those who can master this mysterious, untamed force. They gain incredibly tough bodies and live way longer than any normal human. But ironically, almost none of them actually manage to survive that long. A woman points out that Viper was actually his partner for over 10 years. Swirling a lollipop, Anasin mutters, "Man, I bet that has got to hurt." She turns and asks Chaos directly. Meanwhile, Yuna pulls back a sheet, revealing a decapitated corpse. She sighs, noting how such a scary-looking guy had such a bright personality in life. Shrouding the body again, she remarks that in the end, death makes everyone equal. She then asks how his meeting went. Chaos just spreads his arms wide. "Of course she rejected me instantly," he says. Clearly, she is not interested. He had actually watched her from a distance, seeing she already has other allies. Yuna notes he doesn't seem bothered at all. Chaos smiles, explaining that despite the rejection, she still promised him a little favor. Yuna asks what kind of favor, but he just leans over the corpse. "It's a secret," he whispers. He gets ready to leave. He grabs a pair of gloves, showing them off. "I came for these," he adds. "I have always wanted to wear them." Yuna quietly tells him to stay safe. She admits she has a bad feeling that something terrible is coming for their division. The camera zooms in on his eyes. A cold thought strikes him. Even in such a short time, Iwa has managed to grow incredibly strong. He knows the clan's top brass probably overlook her, but they are making a mistake. Even the tiniest ember, if left alone, can erupt into a massive firestorm. Just imagine what kind of absolute monster she is going to become. Back in the present, we see Iwa carefully cleaning her sharp combat knife. Next, she wraps a wire around her hands, pulling hard to test its strength. Her phone suddenly buzzes on the table. A message appears. It simply asks if everything is ready. Immediately, Iwa sprints down the corridor. She reaches the edge, then she leaps right off. Hurtling down, she fires a grappling hook from her hand straight into the air. It latches onto the corner of a nearby building, and she swings down. Iwa hits the ground in a perfect combat pose, her eyes locked forward. From a hidden rooftop, she watches her target, a heavily fortified guard tower. Two guards chat idly. Suddenly, one of them snaps his head around. He raises his rifle, demanding to know who goes there. His partner looks confused. Scratching his head, the first guard wonders if it was just some stray animal. But right behind him, a dark silhouette silently emerges. Before he can react, boom, Iwa punches him. The second guard lunges, pistol raised, but Iwa easily grabs it, crushing it in her bare hand, and follows up with a heavy blow that sends him flying. He collapses. Iwa warns him to stay quiet or die. She then coldly orders him to grab his walkie-talkie. He slowly picks it up. With a quick, precise strike, Iwa hits him on the back of the neck, smashed. The radio is crushed into the ground with a punch, followed by another brutal chop to his neck. Stepping back, she leaves both men out cold. In a foggy city, a distant voice questions, "Is the 17th Division compromised?" Totally infiltrated, Iwa turns to her group, asking if there is a real plan. Rachel Sinclair raises her hand with a grin. "First we go boom." "Then kaboom," she suggests. Vector scoffs. "Why not just walk straight in and wipe everyone out?" John Nash crushes a rock in his hand. "Kill them all." Simple as that. Iwa facepalms, flatly calling them all absolute idiots. The young woman turns to Ingen. "Ingen," she says. He calmly responds. "First, neutralize the guards." He refers to the local patrol force who maintain basic order under the name of the hero. Clan weaklings. Since they cannot use special gifts, they only handle low-risk situations. Rachel scoffs. Are they really worth worrying about? But Iwa agrees, and Jen is right. Better to minimize any unknown variables. A hand reaches for the clan emblem. Once those guards are down and the tower is blown, the clan must divert their attention elsewhere. Even without knowing the leader, they will feel the pressure. Exactly, but get this, Vector suddenly remembers something crucial. He heard the 17th Division's security head is a retired hero. Things could get messy if he gets involved, and Jen nods. "Then we eliminate him. Simple." Rachel immediately offers to do it. To prove her loyalty, she points out that just as she does not trust them, they do not trust her either. Fair enough. This is her ultimate chance to prove her worth to everyone. Ingen agrees but notes that it is not a fair trade. Turning, he asks Iwa what she wants in return. Instantly, Iwa snatches an object right from his coat. Later, Iwa dodges a guard swiftly. Countering with a brutal punch to his face, she pushes forward past a long trail of beaten guards. She stops before a massive door. A voice inside notes how far she got, serious, chilling confidence. The security chief sits with his back turned, wondering if all his guards are dead. Iwa steps inside. I do not know if they are dead, but you are about to be. She is dead serious. The man slowly stands up, mentioning the rumors of a troublemaker causing chaos in the lower sectors. Gripping his heavy battle axe, he realizes it is her. He introduces himself as Grayman, accusing Iwa of killing Jade and Viper. Iwa stretches, casually asking what if it was her. Grayman charges, attacking with his weapon, but she stops the heavy blade with her bare hand. Iwa swings with her own weapon, but Grayman easily dodges, keeping his distance. Iwa warns him not to hold back, challenging him to bring everything he has. Grayman rolls up the sleeves of his overalls and lunges forward. Dodging the high-speed strike, Iwa prepares to retaliate with a direct punch. The blow lands on his face, but as she follows up, her leg gets caught. With pure brute force, Grayman spins her around and slams her against the wall. Stepping in, Grayman lands a heavy punch right to her face. Even pinned down, Iwa grabs his arm and uses his momentum against him. She locks his arm, slams him down, and drives a hard kick into his face. Jumping back to reset, she watches as Grayman stands and wipes his bloody nose. He watches her closely, noting how creative and wild her moves are. And she clearly has the perfect physique to pull them off. He can tell she has insane combat knowledge, but there is something more. Grayman immediately recognizes that she is a truly elite fighter. Her unbelievable talent isn't just natural, it's built on years of training. She must have survived absolute hell to reach this kind of level. Even so, Iwa is not invincible, and he plans to wear her down. But his arms are already shaking from the force of their clash. As Iwa demands the truth, she can tell Grayman is still holding back. He still isn't taking her seriously as a real threat. Surrounded by conjured blades, Grayman steps forward and makes a quiet admission. She could have easily killed him multiple times by now if she wanted. But clenching his fist, he points out that she simply cannot do it. She wants him to use his gift, standing before the stairs and telling him he must become her stepping stone, ending her thought with a hard punch to his face. She follows up with a high kick, but he barely manages to dodge. She strikes him again, the impact landing squarely on his face once more. Pummeled him, she warns that her next punch will rip off his mask. To her, he is just a snack, and she connects with a spinning kick. The devastating force of the blow sends him flying straight into the wall. Rising from the debris, Grayman faces Iwa as she asks if that was enough. In response, he takes a deep breath and hurls a massive blade her way. The weapon tears through the ground, opening a massive chasm between them. Grayman declares she doesn't need to explain who she is or where she's from. He promises to find out by tearing away her last breath, while Iwa grabs two metal pipes, twirling her new weapons and telling him to bring it on. With pipes in hand, she issues a simple challenge: try me. Just like bodies need food for energy, gift users have a unique power source. They draw on a special energy called est, and battles are decided by who can wield this precious energy the most efficiently during a clash. Some users simply have smaller reserves, and while certain gifts require very little est to activate, others demand an incredibly massive amount. Iwa can use her Jade Lightning gift for over 5 minutes, but she can only sustain the Viper gift for mere seconds, meaning she must be careful. One wrong move means death. Suddenly, Grayman lunges with a strike, but Iwa blocks. She focused on defense, avoid his most lethal strikes. She barely holds off his blade, then a brutal body blow. Sometimes taking a hit is a must, prepare to counter. A clean strike lands, but Grayman recovers almost instantly. No choice left, they are forced to use their gifts. These ultimate trump cards are only for critical moments. Far from the battle, a lone water drop falls. It drips. Meanwhile, Iwa strikes him hard from above. Her blade gets stopped cold. Grayman intercepts it barehanded. He drives in with a relentless, heavy punch. She blocks with her forearm, but wait, something feels wrong. A perfect trap, Grayman takes a direct hit. She grabs his weapon and slams him down, hard. Did he get careless? He wonders for a second. No, it was a setup, a dagger gleams. She plunges the blade deep into his hand. Standing tall, Iwa reminds him she was always the stronger one. No way, he gasps, this is completely absurd. Blades pierce Grayman. Iwa notes Jade was too weak. She leaps away, adding InGen is far too powerful. She needed a strong partner to test her limits. A tense silence, then Iwa strikes him again. Grayman stands, bleeding heavily, but refusing to fall yet. Finally, he slumps against the wall in agony. Why challenge the hero clan? What is your goal? He warns her she will end up far worse. Iwa agrees that might be true, hitting him again. She declares that once she dies, he will not even exist. Slumped on the floor, he weakly begs for help. Iwa coldly tells him his time is up, throwing him over. He plummets onto a car. Iwa pulls her dagger. She looks out at the city under the night. Leaping down, she spots a lone figure waiting below. In the alley, Victoria removes her cap, watching her. She casually greets Iwa, asking what she is doing. With a casual flick, Victoria sends Iwa flying back. The young warrior crashes heavily, raising a cloud of dust. Standing on a wall, Victoria wonders if she blocked. Sniffing the air, she asks who Iwa just massacred. I do not need to answer you, Iwa snaps. Victoria smiles, saying that voice makes her want to rip her apart. 9 gifted ones rule this world, completely unbound by rules. They stand far above the hero clan, holding absolute power. Victoria is one of those legends, existing long before heroes. Iwa knows she cannot defeat a monster like Victoria yet. With a clear opening, she might actually stand a real chance. Iwa threw a direct punch, but Victoria caught her fist with bare hands. What are you doing? The woman asked coldly before striking Iwa across the face. Iwa went limp. Victoria held her high, muttering she disliked her. She added that those clothes did not suit her either. Then, Victoria's voice sharpened. Why are you pretending to be dead? She demanded. Victoria questioned. Iwa whispered something too low for the woman to understand, leaving Victoria wondering what she had actually said. InGen had once explained to Iwa that she could only permanently steal gifts from those she actually killed, but Iwa simply replied she was not worried about that. InGen's warning about her gift being too hard to handle at that level echoed in her mind. Back in the present, Iwa's hand touched Victoria's shoulder. I have got you, she stated firmly. Dark energy began to swirl around them, then a massive explosion erupted. When the dust settled, Victoria was completely alone. The young woman had vanished. Far from the scene, someone commented that Iwa always returned in terrible shape. No doubt that security chief was extremely formidable. Rachel Sinclair walked in, announcing that Iwa had finally woken up. Do you recognize the ceiling? Rachel asked, sitting up facing Vector and Rachel. Iwa merely asked for food. Talk about a crazy appetite. She instantly devours a pizza, making everyone stare at how fast she eats. She just keeps going. Without a single pause, Vector interrupted her, telling her to wait. He pointed directly at her arm. Is not that broken? He asked calmly. Iwa rolled up her sleeve, revealing the bone. She simply stated it would heal after a nap, leaving Vector totally speechless. He asked if the preparations were complete, but was told one thing was still missing. Rachel Sinclair explained that, according to InGen, the heroes of the 17th Division would soon begin gathering inside the same building. Their master plan was simply to blow the entire structure to absolute smithereens. Someone questioned how they would get so many explosives, especially with security tightened after Grayman's death. Just then, InGen walked in, confidently saying he knew a guy. Delivery man struggled with 2 heavy boxes, silently questioning who on earth had placed such a massive order. Checking the map on his phone, he confirmed the address was correct, though he had never even seen this building before. Wiping sweat from his brow, the young man rang the doorbell. Delivery, he announced. Rachel opened the door, revealing the entire group. Talk about terrifying. A nervous smile creeps on his face, wondering if he was in deep trouble. I will just leave the order here, he blurted out before turning to flee. Desperate, the man bolted with everyone pouring out after him in hot pursuit. The poor guy continued running. Leaping across rooftops to escape, he landed hard on another building but a strange distortion in the air made him wonder if this was some kind of power. Iwa, swift as a shadow, drew one of her weapons of choice. With a wide, powerful swing, she aimed a devastating blow that smashed into the wall right beside the delivery man before he could react. Another deadly sphere flies right at him, blasting straight into the rooftop. The violent blast sends the young delivery man tumbling toward the edge. He rolls hard, desperately scrambling to find his footing. Meanwhile, John Nash smashes right through a solid wall with brute strength. The delivery guy barely slips away, dodging the heavy fist by inches. Without a second's pause, John Nash lunges forward again. The courier flips a coin into the air as John Nash misses his target. Concrete shatters. A calm voice from above asks if this is necessary. With a massive leap, John Nash lands heavily onto the high rooftop. Iwa approaches the delivery man, snapping her fingers with obvious impatience. Terrified, the kid quickly stammers, "I do not even know why you are here. I am not just showing off, and there is no way you can match my speed." Iwa just stares back with a freezing glare. "If you were that fast, you would have left." "Not even close. You are not nearly as quick as you think. Does your power turn you invisible whenever you toss that coin?" That was indeed his power, but he must retrieve the coin to reuse it. Iwa's rapid deduction leaves him completely frozen in pure disbelief. Desperate, he tries a new trick, throwing a handful of coins into the air. He sneers, asking what she thinks of this, while Iwa's sharp eyes track them. Her eyes stay locked on the floating metal. She reaches out for one. The courier's body begins to fade, turning translucent as he hides. She found him instantly. Now he knows his cover is completely blown. Iwa delivers a brutal kick, sending him crashing across the concrete roof. A mysterious voice calls his gift interesting. Iwa stands over him, demanding more. "Not yet," he groans, insisting he still has one last trick. Knowing he cannot win this fight, he chooses to run instead. He leaps off the roof, parkouring across the skyline in a wild escape. He screams back into the wind, hoping he never sees them again. He runs, crying over his lost cash. Meanwhile, Rachel Sinclair watches from the shadows. A sudden doubt hits her. Is that the same girl? With zero hesitation, Rachel charges straight into the action. Rachel lunges forward. The fleeing courier dodges her strike with ease. Just when he thinks he got away, sudden vines wrap around his ankles. The roots drag him down. He wakes up surrounded by a massive, ancient forest. Bizarre, plant-covered creatures loom over him among the giant trees. A creature speaks, calling this a special garden she rarely ever uses. Rachel then materializes right in front of him, delivering a chilling ultimatum. "You only have two options to escape. Wait here or kill her." Smiling, she scoffs that he looks weak. What is his next move? Totally pinned down, he hears her ask if he is ready to cooperate. She pulls out a terrifying weapon, inviting him to have some fun. Elsewhere, a shady distribution company named Chain Lois is fueling dark rumors. On the surface, it looks normal, but whispers say they deliver anything. They deliver absolutely anything for the right price, rising to the top 10. Yet their mysterious leader, known only as Chain, remains completely hidden. A heavy knock echoes against a metal door. The delivery man whispers the password. Peering through a narrow slit, the guard recognizes him as number 9. Smiling, the delivery man demands to see the boss. The heavy door swings wide open. A massive, imposing guard stands inside. As they walk down the corridor, John Nash steps up. He punches the delivery man hard. A nervous Rachel asks if this is a trap. But the delivery man quickly denies it. They keep moving down the dark corridor. They head toward a faint light at the very end. Soon, they enter a massive hall. An armed squad surrounds the man waiting for them. At the table, the boss sits. He demands to know what is happening. The guards watch silently as the man laughs. He bursts out laughing. The delivery man announces that these people wanted to meet him. He pulls down his shirt collar, showing off the secret symbol of Chain Logas. The boss's eyes flare with sudden rage, and he immediately orders their execution. Jen surges forward instantly, effortlessly tearing through every single guard. Shadowy blades materialize right against the boss's neck. Terrified, the man discovers they brought a bomb, one capable of leveling the entire division. Shivering in fear, he stammers that the man before them is not the real Chain. Suddenly, a side door swings open. A voice grumbles about having his game interrupted. The true Chain finally appears, asking if they are mistreating his guys. Jen, caught completely off guard, stares back at him. Chain looks on in astonishment. He instantly recognizes InGen. Meanwhile, a guard crawls desperately across the floor. Tears stream down his face as he begs his boss for help, clinging to Chain's leg. Without a second of hesitation, Chain kicks him away like trash. InGen calls out Chain's name, asking him what he is doing in this place. Iwa watches the reunion, recognizing both of the powerful men standing there. She keeps staring with a dead serious expression. Suddenly, Rachel lanes in. Rachel Sinclair asks what she is thinking. Iwa replies that it is nothing. But Rachel easily reads her. Her curiosity is clearly focused on those two. Rachel explains that they fought together in the war. InGen even saved Chain's life once. Chain scoffs, asking if they seriously expect him to join a suicidal mission. InGen clarifies they do not need his help, just his stockpile of explosives. He gestures toward the back of the massive warehouse. Chain notes the decades of hard work it took to build this business. He flatly refuses to help. He cannot risk losing everything he has built. He won't risk starting over. InGen turns to Iwa, noting she is surprisingly quiet. They need to secure these explosives, and they need to do it fast. Chain points at her, asking who she is, and telling her to scram so the adults can talk. InGen introduces her as the infamous hero killer, their ultimate wild card. Chain chuckles, finding the title amusing, but InGen warns him of her record. She has already killed 2 actual heroes, and Chain might be next. Iwa steps forward. She tells Chain to stop wasting her time. In a cold voice, she demands the bomb. Later, we find Chain in his room, playing a video game to unwind. An in-game character asks if helping the Nameless was truly the right call. The other replies that if they had not, InGen would have slaughtered everyone. Annoyed by the line, Chain mutters that this video game is garbage. One of his men approaches. Chain glares at him, wondering what the traitor wants. With so many explosives, his partner warns this will only anger the hero clan. Chain explains it is only insurance, knowing they will be hunted. Once the charges detonate, a small blast ensures no hero gets seriously hurt. That way, they can apologize and claim they were forced to cooperate. Still, the doubtful thug questions if they can really topple the hero clan. It seems impossible. Suddenly, Enon approaches Chain from behind and whispers. Stunned, Chain watches him walk away, trying to process the shocking news. A subordinate reminds him that their goal is still destroying the 17th Division. In the quiet moment, Chain starts to ponder what happens if they succeed. His crew gets fired up, already celebrating the massive profits they will make. But Chain can only stare ahead, wondering what comes after that victory. Meanwhile, inside a quiet room, a trembling hand reaches for a pill bottle. His grip fails, sending the medicine clattering loudly onto the floor. Yuna quickly kneels to pick it up, as Chaos asks when she arrived. She gently tells him she just got here while a clock ticks on the wall. Chaos takes a quiet sip of water, watching as Yuna sits down on the floor. She opens her medical kit, revealing his back covered in brutal battle scars. As she attaches the electrodes, she admits this treatment is no longer working. Yuna softly suggests that it is not too late for him to retire. Suddenly, Chaos lunges forward and pins her roughly against the wall. Not today, he growls, but Yuna remains calm, saying the choice is his. She explains she will raise his dosage, but it is only a temporary fix. His body simply is not recovering well because he has been fighting too long. Pulling his shirt back on, Chaos listens as she warns his fighting days are over. Ignoring the warning, he mutters that he only wants to see the end of this war. Yuna points out the war ended long ago, but he firmly disagrees. To him, it never stopped. Suddenly, a sound outside catches his attention. Yuna notices it too, guessing the new recruits have finally arrived. 3 figures walk toward the massive headquarters, ready for duty. Sharpshooter, Claymore, and Stonefist stand ready. Stonefist asks where everyone is. Sharpshooter explains the chief manager sent them out on an urgent mission. Villains are infiltrating, and several heroes have already been wiped out. Claymore is shocked by Viper's death, remembering him as a genuinely good guy. Stonefist agrees he had rare talent, but Claymore meant his pure heart. Just then, Heavy Smoker steps out from behind a pillar to greet them. A white delivery truck reflects in the windows as it pulls up. It drives straight down into the clan's underground parking garage. Looking around, the driver murmurs that this is supposed to be a major base. Yet there is absolutely no security in sight, which seems highly suspicious. Brushing it off, he unzips a bag to reveal a ticking time bomb. He smiles, calling it a special delivery, just as an office phone rings. Heavy Smoker answers the call, then looks over at the three young recruits. He asks if they are really the only reinforcements sent to help. They do not even make up half of the squad he requested. Sharpshooter asks how many he wanted, noting they cleared their busy schedules to come. Stonefist agrees, noting the 17th Division is small and transfers are common. He snaps his fingers. Clearly, he is very excited for this. This looks like fun, but Sharpshooter dismisses it entirely. She calls the mission a complete nuisance, making him grin. That smiling man was a legendary, terrifying figure during the war. As his arm starts transforming, he boasts about crushing him personally. The woman merely shrugs, says it will make good target practice. But Claymore warns them to stay vigilant if that monster is back. Stonefist slaps him on the back, asking why he fears an old ghost. He looks to Heavy Smoker, another veteran of that war, to confirm everything. Puffing on his cigar, the older man simply calls him an idiot. Naturally, that insult sets Stonefist off, but Heavy Smoker ignores him. He asks Yuna about Chaos, but she says he is too hurt. Sharpshooter wonders how Chaos even lived while Viper died. She basically implies Chaos does not have what it takes to be a hero. Yuna snaps right back, telling her to shut her mouth right now. She yells that Chaos is a real hero, unlike Sharpshooter. Furious, Sharpshooter aims her loaded crossbow right at Yuna's face, demanding answers. But before things get bloody, the ground beneath them starts cracking. Sharpshooter mutters that this is definitely not a simple fight. A massive explosion rocks the building. Heavy Smoker coolly lights his cigar. This is going to be tough. The group immediately prepares for battle. The 17th Division will crush him. Meanwhile, in another city, a blue-haired woman slams her menu shut, complaining about the prices. The rich crowd falls completely silent as a figure walks toward the stage. Victoria makes her grand entrance before the gathered crowd. Walking over to a massive grand piano, she sits down to play. Other musicians with a violin and cello quickly join her on stage. They begin to play together, their instruments blending in perfect harmony. Victoria strikes the keys with intense, raw passion as the music swells. But the song aggressively spins into absolute chaos with every note. The other musicians are visibly sweating, desperately trying to keep pace. At her table, the blue-haired girl admits she is no expert. But even a random guy taking a drink notices how weird this is. With a subtle, mysterious smile, Victoria looks straight at the crowd. After the show, Victoria walks over to Hecate's table, welcoming her. Nearby, two men secretly watch them. Hecate admits she is surprised. She never knew Victoria actually enjoyed this kind of stuff. Victoria explains that playing piano is great training for controlling her strength. To prove it, she effortlessly bends a metal fork right in her hand. The fork effortlessly crumples like paper as waiters arrive with food. Hecate takes a quick bite of her steak before shifting the conversation. Victoria wonders out loud why Heavy Smoker keeps ignoring her calls. Hecate clarifies if she means the old manager of the 17th Division. The blonde already suspects something is seriously wrong with them. He seemed aware of the situation. Hate dryly noted that he only cared about his own safety. Elsewhere, they slowly pieced together the truth of the entire situation, connecting everything to the newcomer, calling it a direct gift from the smiling man. A sign of massive trouble, Victoria stretched languidly, hoping for some noise. She wanted a massive explosion before her vacation ended, but Hecate interrupted. Speaking of blasts, Hecate pointed out the window to show her. In the distance, a massive building spewed thick black smoke. Victoria turned to watch. A subtle smirk played on her lips. That burning building belonged to Chain. Inside, Iwa realized they had been tricked. She quickly asked Ingen what the plan was. Ingen replied that they were going in with absolutely everything they had. With that, the group advanced, ready to declare the arrival of the Nameless. They marched forward as one, ready to make a chaotic statement. Ingen's fist surged with raw energy, just as a massive attack struck. The strike slammed into the building, shattering the exterior on impact. Watching from inside, Stonefist wondered if the enemy wanted to level the place. Meanwhile, on another floor, Sharpshooter quickly readied her weapon. Suddenly, the window right in front of her shattered from a brutal blow. In order to slaughter, everyone rang out, and a high-speed bolt was fired. Iwa swiftly drew her blade, deflecting the incoming projectiles with ease. The projectiles exploded around her, sending waves of flame across the floor. Jen watched the intense flames, wondering if they were infused with ISD. From the rooftop, Sharpshooter surveyed the battlefield. Heavy Smoker stepped forward. Their main mission was simple: capture the infamous Smiling Man. Stonefist ordered the others to handle the rest, and Claymore agreed. Spotting Sharpshooter in a far window, she heard Ingen's cold command. He ordered them to take her down as John charged the structure. John Nash glared up at his target, fully prepared for a fight. Above, the heroes launched themselves into the combat. Stonefist threw a massive punch at John, smashing the concrete with brute force. Through the dust, the hero watched closely to see his handiwork. A silhouette slowly rose from the wreckage, leaving them in utter disbelief. John Nash retaliated with a devastating punch, shaking the entire area. A massive shockwave rippled outward as Claymore leaped into the action. But Rachel Sinclair intercepted his dive, her weapon clashing hard against his. She easily blocked another overhead strike with absolute composure. She swung back fast, but Claymore barely managed to parry her blow. Nearby, Iwa rushed another foe, only for him to catch her collar. Stopping her dead in her tracks, he sent her flying with a kick. As Sharpshooter took aim, Rachel unleashed a surge of deadly vines. Iwa leaped back as the vines shielded her from an explosive blast. Iwa realized instantly that her ally's gift had just saved her life. Rachel approached her with a playful smile, totally unfazed by the chaos. Across the battlefield, Claymore and Sharpshooter braced themselves for a tough fight. Rachel casually asked Iwa which of the two she wanted to fight. Without any hesitation, Iwa confidently replied that she would handle them herself. Claymore, suddenly a coin flies through the air. Taken by surprise, he feels a wire wrapping tight around his body. Snapping tight, it yanks him backward as Iwa slams him against a building. Blade drawn, she charges straight at him. Claymore breaks free just in time, their swords colliding in a brutal clash. But the moment they touch, Iwa's blade begins to crumble and disintegrate. Against his, without hesitation, she drops the useless hilt and immediately pulls a dagger from her belt. Brandishing it, she listens as Claymore boasts that his power instantly corrodes metal. Iwa realizes that normal weapons are useless. A cold realization dawns on her: she needs an entirely different weapon. Claymore scoffs, asking what kind of weapon could possibly stop him. She gives her answer immediately: a blade made of nothing but pure light. Right before his eyes, a glowing sword of energy shapes itself in her hand. Elsewhere, Enon pushes himself up from the ruined floor, glaring toward the heavy Smoker watching from the balcony. Around them, the battleground is a total disaster, showing one bloody, broken body and the cold form of another. Nearby, a third victim lies dead on top of a truck. Clenching his teeth, the heavy Smoker puffs his cigar. Sneering with deep contempt, he asks if Enon really dared to show his face again. After running away like a coward, nearby, a voice calls out, telling him to come up. The heavy Smoker challenges Enon to climb the stairs and face him. Just then, a dark memory flashes through Enon's mind, a massive hand gripping a helpless young boy. He remembers begging to be spared, before a woman's voice told him to always wear a smile. Now a forced, twisted grin stretches wide. Enon looks up in the present day, smiling. As he agrees, meanwhile, Iwa tightens her grip on her sword, staying on high alert. Her eyes locked forward, her dangerous powers are split into two distinct categories: permanent ones and temporary ones. When she slays another user, she claims their powers to use forever, provided she has the energy, but for the powers she merely copies. Things are very different. She can deploy those borrowed skills whenever she wants, but only for a short window, unless she actually kills the original owner. She can never use them a second time. It makes her combat style feel like a wild card game. Suddenly, Claymore lunges forward with a strike, but Iwa blocks it cleanly. Moving in a flash, she deflects the incoming attack. He thrusts his blade forward to impale her, but Iwa barely intercepts the strike. Locked in a brutal contest of raw strength, their blades grind together. Seizing the opening, Iwa grabs his dangerous blade with her free hand. In response, Claymore tries to sweep her legs, but she blocks the quick blow. Claymore quickly counterattacks with a heavy vertical slash. Iwa readies herself for his next move, but he shuts down her counter. Seizing her and slamming her hard onto the dirt, raising his weapon, he prepares to finish her, the tip of his blade barely brushing Iwa's face. Kicking off the floor, she launches a handful of dirt directly into his eyes. He shields himself as she quickly slips along his side to strike. Claymore parries her blow, asking if that is Victoria's copied power. Their eyes lock in a tense standoff before Iwa moves in, clashing swords. The sheer shockwave of their impact throws both fighters backward. Sliding across the dirt, they catch their footing. Pushed back, she simply answers no. Finding his footing, Claymore declared the real question lay elsewhere. In a direct, blunt tone, he demanded to know who taught her those moves, but Iwa replied she was not sure. Ready to fight, he promised to learn from her today. Suddenly, her focus shifted skyward as a massive object plummeted from above right toward them. Unbelievably, John Nash and Stonefist commented on Ingen's absurdly massive est, while Sharpshooter wondered if this was actually the power of the smiling man. Pale hands clawed out from a dark, bizarre substance, which soon materialized into Ingen himself. Stepping before the staircase, his gaze targeted the structure being slowly swallowed by that dark muck. Then he climbed the steps, quietly moving through a blinding, pure white landscape, far away, heavy. Smoker puffed his cigar, remembering a brutal past where even when the villains had beat him down, glaring directly at Ingen, he declared that today he would destroy him. Silently, Ingen wondered if that was even possible. In a single flash, Heavy Smoker was brutally impaled twice, with a calm gaze. Ingen watched him as the man's body began to disintegrate, and bizarre, fish-like beasts crawled from his remains. One of them actually bit down on Ingen's shadow tendrils and devoured it completely. Surrounded by these monsters, Ingen calmly questioned if this was his grand trap. Heavy Smoker wheezed that they only grow stronger as they feed on est, making them vastly superior to his original gift. Clasping his hands, Heavy Smoker snarled that Ingen would never escape this. Instantly, the swarm surged forward. But Ingen just smiled, questioning if they were really superior. Heavy Smoker stared at him in absolute shock. Ingen declared that this tiny trick was absolutely nothing compared to his true power, adding that calling him here was a mistake. Now thousands of dark hands began to materialize around him, filling the sky, making it painfully clear that daylight could never reach them down there. Ultimately, this place was completely cut off from the light. Meanwhile, back in the city, a massive explosion violently shook the rooftop of a skyscraper. John Nash and Stonefist were trading brutal hits right in the street. Nash suddenly slammed a heavy punch to Stonefist's face, laughing that they both seemed to be having real fun. The strike connected hard, but Stonefist instantly recovered, urging him to take things up a level, his arms hardening into heavy stone gauntlets. In an instant strike, a devastating punch smashed right into John Nash's face. Rachel Sinclair immediately charged into the fray, launching a strike with a branch of blooming flowers, but Sharpshooter cut right through her attack, shredding the blossoms. Sharpshooter noted her opponent was surprisingly tough before Sharpshooter leaped back to fire a deadly arrow. Rachel ducked behind a massive rock as the blast went off. Ingen, watching Iwa's fierce battle from afar, realized it would be impossible to mimic those insanely wild acrobatics. Safe for now, Rachel decided to taunt her enemy, asking if she could please land just one hit on her. Sharpshooter scoffed, asking what if she broke a fingernail. Rachel replied her nails weren't that special, leaving her opponent confused. Who asked what she meant, Rachel teased that all her deadly shots had missed so far, suggesting she might not be so special. Her opponent merely smiled, intrigued. Rachel wondered why as the archer readied her weapon. Make her regret those words, she declared. A single arrow shot straight into the high in the sky. Rachel looks up, completely caught off guard as the projectile shifts. It plummets directly toward her, leaving absolutely no time to dodge. She braces to block, but the arrow tears right through her leg, Sharpshooter's special gift. Oops, Rachel mutters quietly, pulling the sharp projectile straight out of her flesh. The arrow crumbles to dust in her grip. Things are getting seriously difficult. She seriously wishes she faced Claymore instead, but it is way too late. No chance for a switch now. Sharpshooter raises her deadly crossbow once more. Rachel dives to the side, just as another massive blast rips through the air. Low on time, she zigzags across the field to dodge the relentless barrage. She ducks low, she has to close the distance. But then Sharpshooter pulls out a detonator, and a hidden device starts to beep. Rachel looks down in confusion right before the trap explodes, sending her flying. Through the rising smoke, she wonders when these traps were even set. Sharpshooter reveals another bomb, explaining her trap. She laid them during the chaos, steering Rachel directly into the blast zone. Before she can recover, another arrow drives deep into Rachel's shoulder. Sharpshooter has to admit, this girl is incredibly tough and highly versatile. Why so quiet all of a sudden, she taunts, resting a hand on her skirt. Rachel answers by firing vines from her palm, whispering that she was just thinking. Sharpshooter leaps backward to dodge, complaining that this move is getting old. Is it really? Rachel whispers, knowing her enemy's speed is a massive problem. Getting close is nearly impossible while dodging those brutal standard shots. Oddly enough, her opponent's lethal sixth shot cannot land a critical hit. Realizing she only has one card left to play, Rachel charges straight ahead. As she runs, she hurls a random piece of debris like a weapon. She pushes forward desperately, determined to reach her target before collapsing. Sharpshooter immediately unleashes a storm of highly precise, glowing projectiles. The first arrow grazes her shoulder, and the second tears into her leg. The third barely misses her hip, while the fourth flies right past her face. A fifth strike hits her back, and the final sixth shot pierces her arm. How is she still standing? A wide, incredibly stubborn grin spreads across her face. She glares through a vine portal, and Sharpshooter simply smiles back at her. Rachel freezes in shock as her opponent casually apologizes. That previous strike was a real arrow, and now she is loading another. She calls out that this is her true sixth strategic shot. An illusionary arrow hits her chest, but the physical weapon is stuck in her arm. Sharpshooter easily dodges the rising vines as Rachel's leg suddenly buckles. Her battered body collapses hard onto the cold dirt, completely defeated. Dizziness washes over her from the massive, unstoppable blood loss. She wonders if this is truly the end when there is still so much to do. Meanwhile, far away in Area 55, a small group approaches a massive gray castle. A hooded figure cradles a shivering child while heavy snow falls over a desolate village. Homeless, starving children wander the ruins, and one desperately tries to steal bread. Survival here means stealing, as there are almost no safe havens left. And that gloomy gray castle is easily the least welcoming place in this brutal era. During the Civil War, the castle folks grew tougher, much tougher. Careless fighters ended up defeated, often losing their fingers. Then, shattering the eternal silence, an old carriage arrived. It dragged what looked like a body. Rachel, she was barely breathing. As she lay there, she remembered how her tragic story first began. Years ago, young Rachel was pruning bushes outside, balancing on a stool. She stretched high, muttering to herself that she was almost there. Suddenly, she slipped. A voice screamed her name as she tumbled down. She hit the ground hard. Her mother rushed over, panicking. Rachel promised she was fine, bringing instant relief to her mother. They had to hurry inside. Her uncle was arriving any minute now. The door creaked open. Her uncle stepped inside, covered in thick snow. Rachel excitedly called out to her uncle as he ruffled her hair. He asked how she was doing, and she smiled, saying she was fine. Her mother welcomed him warmly. Soon, they were eating dinner together. Asked about his work, he admitted it was just the usual grind. But his face turned grim. The castle lord had executed 5 people. Her mother quickly cut him off, warning him to watch his words. He apologized and went quiet. They kept eating in silence. Rachel nibbled on her bread until her mother asked what was wrong. The girl explained she had accidentally cut a beautiful flower earlier. Her mother, a gardener, curiously asked what the flower looked like. Rachel described its white petals, beautiful but covered in thorns. Her mother guessed it was a wild rose, but Rachel shook her head. No, it was completely, purely white. Her mother was instantly puzzled. If it grew in their yard, she definitely should have recognized it. Suddenly, a strange, glowing energy began to swirl in the air. Rachel materialized a small, thorny vine right in her tiny hand. She proudly showed it off, confirming this was the flower. The adults froze. They stared at her in pure horror, asking what she had done. Later, by the fireplace, her mother frantically asked if he would take her. She demanded to know if he wanted her precious daughter dead. Her uncle argued back. It was only a matter of time now. The castle would discover she was a gift user. Rachel begged them to stop. Her mother clenched her jaw, then decisively grabbed a travel bag. She firmly announced she was leaving this place with her daughter. Calling her foolish, her uncle warned that leaving Grey Castle was forbidden. She did not care. She fiercely ordered him to get out. She told him to disappear if he was not going to help. Her uncle stood frozen in silence while little Rachel watched them argue. Frustrated, he clenched his fist. He cursed their terrible situation. Finally, he relented, telling her to meet him outside in 3 hours. She asked if he understood. He nodded, needing time to prepare. He muttered that this was completely insane, but she suddenly embraced him. She whispered her love, begging him to go, while little Rachel watched. A faint, gentle smile warms the little girl's face. Then, the heavy winter snow begins to fall. It blankets the quiet town. Nearby, her careless uncle drops a heavy sack straight into the snow. Hand in hand, mother and daughter walk together through the freezing, silent woods. Suddenly, they spot a dark circle of crows gathered on the ground, and instant dread grips their hearts. Hurriedly keeping their distance from the dropped sack, they quickly push forward through the deep snow. Out of the dark, a hooded figure silently emerges, clutching a massive, wicked scythe. With one blindingly fast, brutal swing, the cloaked attacker ruthlessly ends the mother's life. Instantly, the ruthless royal guards show themselves. 2 hooded soldiers rush forward. They grab the mother's cold body and snatch little Rachel without any delay. A soldier holds Rachel tight as her dying mother screams her name with her final breath. Their cold-eyed commander notes that there are always fools who try to break the rules. In pure agony, the mother begs them not to touch her little daughter. Startled by a sudden presence, the guard turns to look at an approaching man. Moving purely on instinct, this mysterious newcomer steps right between the young girl and the guards. He calmly suggests that there has obviously been some kind of a misunderstanding here. The guard sneers, asking if he actually believes that changes anything. He yanks the girl away. Keeping a tight grip, he questions her mother. Asking her mother a cruel question, he demands to know how many bastards the Lord has fathered. With a heavy heart, she admits that, while she does not know the exact number, she is certain there are well over 100. The cruel guard just laughs it off. He points out that there is zero proof Rachel is even Lord Sinclair's blood. Besides, Lord Sinclair cares more about strict law than his very own family. Terrified, the mother asks what their fate will be. The guard gives a chilling reply. It should be totally obvious. Grey Castle sits completely outside the noble hero clan's rule. But that freedom only lasts as long as the people never try to escape this place. Break that law and a brutal, traditional punishment awaits any offender. They bind the rule breakers to a wooden cart and drag them endlessly across the frozen wastes. The heavy wooden wagon slowly starts to move, carrying them out into the freezing storm. Out here, almost no one survives past the very first day. Their fate is already sealed. Rachel just lets out a hollow laugh, not from joy, but out of absolute despair. Truly a gut-wrenching turn of events, as her entire world is crushed in a split second. All is lost. She quietly wonders about her poor mother's ultimate fate. She knows absolutely nothing about the mysterious lord they claim is her real father. Helpless and frozen, she expects to draw her last breath in the snow, forgotten forever. The driver slams the brakes. A lone figure blocks their snowy path. Standing atop a high rock, the mysterious stranger watches the guards with cold, deadly eyes. He challenges the royal guards before slowly drawing his massive, heavy greatsword. He strikes with one heavy swing, snapping the thick ropes binding her. Warm blood splashes across Rachel's face. The startled guards leap back in absolute panic. But one guard is too slow and falls. The savior pulls back his hood. It is Engine. Standing calmly among the bodies of the dead soldiers, he steps toward her. He quickly slices the ropes around her ankles and wraps his warm cloak over her. Offering a hand without a single word, he asks absolutely no questions. Never once does he question why she ran or why she wanted to die. Standing by her mother's fresh grave, Rachel's mind is filled with quiet confusion. She asked what the smiling man was doing. He just smiled back. He explained he had already failed twice. Now, he was preparing again. This was his third try. His determination was actually pretty impressive. Seeing him so happy made her envious. She wanted that strong hope. She wanted dreams that strong. The tall castle tower reflected in her eyes. Right there lived the monster who had torn her life apart. In that moment, she realized she had stopped living because she abandoned her revenge. It was never a matter of strength. That was just a pathetic excuse. Instead, a chaotic storm of grief, terror, and raw fury consumed her. This violent clash of feelings became the ultimate spark for her power. When she abandoned her childhood home, she made a very solemn vow. One day, she would return and slaughter the elder they called father. Sharpshooter mocked Rachel's stubbornness, declaring the fight was finished. She pointed her weapon, telling the helpless girl to stay completely still. It would end quickly. Flat on the dirt, Rachel whispered an apology. But she flatly refused to die in this place. Her enemy scoffed, calling her pathetic for begging for her life. Even living a pathetic life, she was still alive. Now watch. Stonefist roared Jay's name, just as a devastating punch hit his face. A sudden shadow loomed over Sharpshooter, forcing her to look up. Flowering vines suddenly pierced through Stonefist, trapping him completely. From the dirt, Rachel promised she would never lose like this again. He vanished into leaves. Suddenly, Stonefist woke in a lush field. A mysterious voice sighed that he had lost, warning him she was angry. Rachel emerged in a glowing new form, promising to make it quick. Sharpshooter could not believe her eyes. How was she fully healed? Her mortal wounds should have completely crippled her. This is no illusion. She actually dragged him into another dimension. The strange, alien world around him confirmed his worst fears. Rachel lunged with terrifying speed, swinging her weapon down in a flash. The heavy blow was blocked, but Stonefist felt the impact. She had not just recovered, she was vastly stronger now. Rachel spun, striking again, and Stonefist barely blocked with his arm. Without missing a beat, she explained why she targeted him first. She believed he would be easier to kill than Sharpshooter. Stonefist admitted she had raw power, but doubted it would last. He challenged her, asking if she really thought she could break him. He bragged that his body could resist almost any alloy. He would simply wait out her power, then crush her entirely. Rachel just smiled, offered an apology, and tossed her weapon aside. She announced it was already over, leaving him completely baffled. Why drop her weapon? Calmly, Rachel spoke of a strange flower. It was incredibly beautiful, but possessed a relentless will to survive. If left alone, it would aggressively overtake an entire garden. That was why they had to keep cutting them down, one by one. Stonefist asks what she means. It is called the violet rose, she replies. A delicate flower that somehow pushes through cold stone cracks just to bloom. She points her finger right at his chest. You are exactly like that. Suddenly, a bud sprouts right from Stonefist's stone arm. He just stares. Shocked, he falls to his knees as flowers erupt from inside his body. His arm is covered in blooming petals. I warned you, she whispers softly. It happens fast. Suddenly, the illusion fades away and a memory strikes him. He remembers when she brushed past him. Was that when it happened? Too late, he realizes why Sharpshooter kept her distance. He was a fool. He should have never let her weapon touch him. Suddenly, a voice calls. He spins around in shock at what he sees behind him. A creepy wooden statue lies discarded in the dirt. Suddenly, he hears a noise. Taking a step closer, he watches as an eye snaps open within the wood. Please kill me, a voice begs. He recoils in pure terror. A sudden shockwave blasts him back. Rachel floats above, looking down at him. Did you like my garden? She asks, as vines wrap tightly around his chest. He gasps, terrified of what is happening. Rachel tells him not to worry. She is simply putting her worst enemies on display. Slowly, his body hardens into a silent pillar of beautiful flowers. Rachel walks away, wondering if this even counts as an official elimination. Going back now would hurt too much, so he should probably just rest here. She slides down against a tree trunk, softly admitting she really misses her mom. Meanwhile, out on the streets, Iwa and Claymore are locked in a vicious sword fight. He unleashes a brutal overhead strike, but she blocks it just in time. Facing off against Claymore, she compares him to that elite hero, Viper. Both possess incredibly destructive abilities, yet neither can use them directly. They have flashy talents, but they win fights through sheer physical dominance. Defeating opponents with brute physical strength is what truly matters. Rising to hero status without their gifts shows their absolute power. They prove they are top-tier combatants, gifts or no gifts. Watching him closely, Iwa knows standard tactics will take way too long. But she always has a backup plan ready. Now watch this. Dropping into a fresh stance, she instantly lunges forward like a bullet. Claymore tracks her every move. In a flash, Iwa strikes his hilt. With absolute precision, she tears the blade right out of his grip. Stunned, Claymore demands to know what she is doing. Swapping weapons, she asks if he really thinks that will save him. But he snatches her sword, declaring he knows how to use this type too. Iwa remains completely unfazed. Is that so? She asks with a cold smile. Instantly, the weapon in Claymore's hands begins to shatter into tiny pieces. You absolute cheater, he snarls. Smiling, Iwa replies that she will take that as a compliment. Chaos explains that their massive, bloated clan is completely corrupt. Large to stop its heroes from doing whatever they want, sitting on a bench. Iwa asks why he is sharing this. Without saying much, he crushes a can, muttering that Engine's brutal methods go way too far. He He added that Njen would do whatever it took to destroy the hero clan, even if it meant sacrificing innocent lives or himself, but Chaos insisted that Iwa was completely different, forced to work with him but not like him. Chaos began to bring up her true goal, but Iwa lost her patience. She cut him off immediately, declaring she had heard quite enough of his talk. She still did not understand his presence here, especially with Viper dead. Iwa threatened him to stop meddling in her business. Chaos simply asked for calm, saying he had brought something for her. As he reached into his pocket, she grabbed his arm. Iwa demanded to know what it was. He replied that it was her identification card, not recognizing the name she had never heard of. A hero named Kasha. Chaos explained that the card let her access the hero clan's database. He then proposed a deal similar to the one she had made with Njen. Chaos warned her that this card was completely useless. Without the password, he guaranteed with absolute conviction that this was the fastest way inside. Why take a detour when there was a direct shortcut? Iwa agreed to hear his proposal. Chaos immediately began to explain. She would face 3 specific targets if she decided to infiltrate the 17th Division. First up was Stonefist. During his missions, he caused massive casualties by completely ignoring his surroundings when using his gift. Chaos compared him to her past targets. He would not even care if she ended his life. Next was Sharpshooter. Honestly, Chaos could not say whether she was good or bad. She only cared about her popularity. Chaos revealed that she was his disciple, but that was not truly important. The last one was Claymore. He did not fit well in the hero clan, too fair and old-fashioned. Chaos then revealed exactly what he wanted her to do. In a direct tone, he asked her to spare Claymore, who, still lying on the ground, seemed utterly confused by this, urging her to listen. Chaos argued that the enemy of her enemy was her friend. In a teasing tone, he asked if she had heard that phrase before, commenting that you never know when someone might become useful. Chaos then offered some parting advice. Stepping away, he warned that if she kept acting recklessly, she would need to develop real judgment to survive. In other words, she must choose wisely whom to kill. Back at the battle, Claymore remained on the ground while Iwa stood tall. Confused, he wondered why she had not finished him off. Without hesitation, she replied she had made a deal, which leaving him even more bewildered. Realizing Chaos was involved, Claymore clenched his fist, questioning his motives. Calmly, Iwa stated that Chaos told her he did not fit the hero clan, suggesting he just leave. In response, Claymore argued that the hero clan still saved lives, even despite sacrificing innocent victims. Direct and challenging, Iwa asked if that meant an evil ruler brought order. Indifferently, Claymore muttered that he did not care for her opinion. Boldly, Iwa announced that the sword was now hers. Elsewhere, Njen realized Heavy Smoker was far stronger than he had expected. Confidently, Heavy Smoker clapped his hands together, unleashing an attack. A shark-shaped blast surged right toward Njen, but a counterattack intercepts the blow midair. On impact, the collision of their strikes triggers a massive explosion. Amidst the chaos, Heavy Smoker is struck in the leg by a stray projectile. Smirking, Njen taunts him, asking how he will survive with just one arm. Heavy Smoker looks to the side. A shadow emerges from behind, grabbing his arm and tearing it completely off. Struggling, he points his remaining hand forward, but with just one hand, Njen stops the giant shark attack. With contempt, he sneers that boasting about being a manager means absolutely nothing since he is just the head of a weak snake. Heavy Smoker glares back, spitting out a warning. From a distance, Njen watches and decides that the manager's run is over. Staring at his bleeding wounds, Heavy Smoker regrets not leaving this bloody business before things ended up like this. He mutters that people used to call him a hero, though he never did anything truly heroic. Is this karma? His trembling hand reaches out to take out a cigar. He admits he has lived a dirty life, just like the worst villains. Before him stands an incredibly dangerous opponent, unlike anyone he has ever faced before. He tells himself he needs to focus completely. Taking a final deep breath, he snaps the cigar, accepting he will have a death fittingly brutal for a corrupt hero, and prepares for his final attack. Charging forward with grim determination, he resolves to take Njen down with him. Heavy Smoker screams that it is time to die as a massive shockwave erupts from the ground beneath Njen's feet, shattering the concrete completely. Look at this scale. A gigantic smoke whale suddenly bursts from the earth. The colossal beast launches itself skyward, carrying Ingen up. Heavy Smoker lands on the giant skeleton he just summoned, shocked that Ingen is completely unscathed. He wonders if his opponent is actually flying, but quickly realizes Ingen stands upon a solid platform of tangible darkness, a gift very similar to Victoria's. Instantly, the manager orders Moby Dick to strike. Ingen quickly creates a dark barrier to defend, but the skeletal whale hits him head-on, sending him flying backward with incredible force. The violent crash completely obliterates the side of the rooftop structure. Ingen slides to a landing, slowly rising amidst the thick dust. The entire upper level of the building is ruined. Meanwhile, the smoke beast crashes into an adjacent rooftop. Heavy Smoker coughs up blood. Knowing his body is failing him, he just needs to hold on a little longer, but suddenly something begins to shift inside the summon. Dark hands tear through the skeletal carcass as a shadowy figure bursts from the whale's body to rip its jaw apart. Now watch, his heart completely sinks. He was terribly mistaken, as a feminine silhouette made of pure darkness materializes. In deep regret, he laments not warning the other districts, wishing he had done everything possible to destroy him right here. The dying manager whispers that he can see it now. Ingen stands tall, surrounded by an invisible mountain of corpses. With bitter clarity, he understands that this is the bloody mountain of bodies Ingen is destined to build. With a sudden flash, Ingen's dark arm pierces straight through his chest. Smoker's limp body plunged straight down toward the shattered bridge. Surrounded by absolute ruin, Chaos walked past the fallen. He fell to his knees, questioning what true justice even meant anymore. Suddenly, an older man grabbed his shoulder from behind, demanding to know if he understood. He shouted at Chaos, reminding him that this is a war. He coldly explained that the bodies scattered across the ground actually belonged to child soldiers from the coalition, struggling to stand back up. The kid muttered that even if you are just a child with a gun, you still die if you get hit. Instantly, the boy lunged, forcing Chaos to quickly shove Smoker away. Taking the stab wound instead, he instantly countered with a brutal punch. He struck the young attacker, but realized more enemies were still surrounding them. Turning to face the oncoming threat, Chaos fired a warning shot upward. Another man grabbed him firmly, telling him to stop deluding himself. This is not a battle of good versus evil. Everyone here is wicked. He argued that the world before heroes was pure chaos, and now they had it better. Chaos spat back, asking if he should just turn a blind eye to everything, even to the deaths of innocent children who are caught in the crossfire. Without missing a beat, the man agreed that he absolutely would keep ignoring it, as long as it gets him to the top, a truly brutal wake-up call for Chaos. He said he should just become another brainless cog in the clan's massive machine. If he could not do that, he might as well go completely insane. Just like Jeremy Bernstein, elsewhere Chaos sat down, asking if the preparations were done. Without looking up, Unison told him not to rush. They were nearly done. With a serious expression, she reminded him that his time was rapidly running out. Yuno explained he could only fight at full strength for a few minutes. Already suited up in his battle gear, he simply replied that he knew. He then activated the Estes cannon system on the control panel before him. He retrieved the weapon from its compartment as they prepared to move out. Out on the ruined streets, a huge transport truck suddenly screeched to a halt. Up in the sky, the remaining energy of the bone creature began to fade. People wondered if this meant Heavy Smoker was truly defeated, while Unison called out. She gently handed him his combat gloves as a distant memory surfaced in his mind. He remembered asking Viper if it was true that he never wore his hero suit. Viper confirmed it, admitting he had always heard that Chaos's suit looked incredibly cool. With a quiet sigh, Chaos had replied that the suit was just too heavy. But back in the present, he knew that was a lie. The real problem was never the suit itself, it was the crushing weight of responsibility it carried. Burying his face in his hands, he made a choice. He was done running. Holding his cape tightly, Yuna quietly wished things did not have to go this way. She warned him no justice remains inside the hero clan. Why waste your life fighting a battle that is already lost? Stepping away, Chaos quietly confessed that the justice he once believed had already been completely broken and shattered a long time ago. It had crumbled entirely until absolutely nothing was left. But as long as he wore this armor, he would keep moving forward. Yua declares that she is still a hero, looking up at the two giant whale-like shapes floating above. Body plummets down from high above as Sharpshooter drops to her knees. Murmuring her manager's name, she turns and bolts, frustrated by his reckless overconfidence. She quickly realizes she has no time to save him right now. Firing an attack on the move, she finds her opponent, John Nash, incredibly tough. His gift is a mystery, making him impossible to analyze on the fly. She assumes he lacks real combat skill, relying purely on brute physical strength. With a swift leap backward, she barely evades a heavy blow from John Nash. She spins around, cursing Stonefist for letting himself get beaten so easily. Getting defeated by a dying kid is pathetic, and she hopes Claymore is doing better. Elsewhere, Yua marches forward, sword in hand, while the desperate battle continues nearby. Dodging another lethal strike, Sharpshooter realizes things are looking incredibly grim. Sizing up the situation, she quickly decides there is nothing left to do. With a sharp toss, she throws a heavy item aside to lighten her load. She must escape alone, launching a sudden flash grenade straight at John Nash. Vaulting between city buildings, she desperately tries to escape the chaotic battlefield. Pulling herself up into a shattered concrete room, she finds Vector waiting for her. Startled, she turns to find Vector aiming a syringe device right at her. Apologizing as he steps forward, he shoots, but she reacts in a flash. Raising her guard is useless, as he injects the strange serum into her. Whispering that it is nothing personal, he watches her vision slowly fade. As she collapses, her falling figure is reflected in his polished gas mask. Kneeling beside her unconscious body, he recalls the strict orders to capture her alive. He wonders how far InGen will go to bring down the hero clan. Standing back up, Vector watches a dark shadow retreat high into the sky. Suddenly, a massive chunk of the building above begins to crumble and fall. Looking up, Heavy Smoker sees the heavy debris raining directly down on him. With an explosive roar, the entire concrete structure collapses onto the street below. Floating above the ruined city, InGen watches closely until a portal suddenly opens. He spins to face the threat, but a violent impact throws him backward. Quickly recovering, he surges forward with his hand completely transformed. An approaching hero asks if InGen really thought escaping would be that easy. He demands answers for his destroyed offices, but InGen remains completely silent. Chaos takes a combat stance, but InGen easily slips past his blow. InGen counterattacks in a flash, forcing Chaos to leap backward defensively. Unleashing energy blasts from his hands, Chaos targets InGen directly. InGen blocks the blast with his shadow power as Chaos's eyes glow brightly. In an instant, Chaos slices cleanly right through InGen's defensive shadow wall. A sharp trail of light flashes as InGen tries to react. He barely manages to nullify the incoming energy blast with his bare hand. Leaping in, John Nash joins the fight, but Chaos instantly blocks his fist. Chaos refuses to yield, continuing his rapid-fire assault under heavy pressure. John Nash struggles to block the incoming barrage of precise strikes. Suddenly, John Nash's weapons are sent flying as Chaos lands a brutal hit. Grounded and defeated, John Nash listens as Chaos declares it is payback time. Chaos instantly fires his weapons, keeping up a relentless, non-stop barrage. His bullets shred John Nash, while InGen notes that Chaos has become completely different. Approaching, InGen asks if Chaos can now predict the future. He points out they have never met, yet Chaos knows his real name, Jeremy Bernstein, leading InGen to deduce Chaos did his homework. Without hesitation, Chaos apologizes and claims he knows much more than InGen. Coldly, he makes a prediction, stating that InGen will lose this fight, claiming InGen will beg for his life at her feet once more. Suddenly, a dark substance rises from InGen's body, and gradually this substance expands, forming a massive dark sphere in the sky. The advancing darkness blankets the entire city. Disdainfully, InGen calls him a worm. Annoyed, Chaos tells him to shut up, calling him pathetic trash. Instantly, both clash as they charge forward to continue their battle. Chaos braces, targeting InGen's giant hand and slashing through the air. On impact, his blades collide heavily with InGen's attack, and the giant shadow hand shatters into pieces. Monsters emerge from the ground. But Chaos repels them with a swift volley of shots. Firing, he questions the future prediction, noting that such a gift is exceedingly rare. Advancing, he strikes down the beasts and remarks that it is no wonder the clan wanted him. This power must be incredibly taxing on the body. Turning, he says that is the price to pay. Below, a giant shadow beast emerges from the ground. Standing atop it, Ingen asks what future chaos sees now, before brutally smashing the ground with its massive hand, standing amidst the debris. Chaos questions his prediction, stepping over a fallen body. He claims Ingen guessed wrong, charging toward the massive beast. He reveals he cannot actually see the future. Suddenly, the beast's hand slams down to crush him, but Chaos blocks it, explaining that his true power is seeing the past, focusing closely. He watches small habits and subtle shifts in expression, firmly believing he never misses a single detail, reading Ingen's past moves. The beast tries to grab him, but Chaos easily evades the strike. He predicts the next move perfectly, striking Ingen from behind. Blood splatters, but Ingen only wonders if that was all, glancing over his shoulder, leaving Chaos shocked as he realizes in that instant that Ingen has completely read his moves and altered his course. And just like that, Chaos gets sent flying by a brutal strike, crashing brutally into a building. He cannot believe Ingen saw through his moves, muttering that he absolutely hates fast and perceptive villains. Coldly, Ingen remarks it was a decent effort from him. Considering the pathetic state of his body, Chaos covers one eye. Asking why Ingen thinks this fight is already over, he declares that power reflects one's inner self, and these beasts are not evil spirits. With a swift slash, he cuts them down, noting, "This is terrifying." A heavy thought weighs on him about those lives. What would be left of this world if a monster of pure darkness got unleashed? He knew there was no other way. He had to kill them all right here. Energy flickers in his arm. He grunts out that his body is completely broken. But even so, he mutters, there is still work left to do. Chaos does not care. If today is his last day, so be it. He's going to pour every ounce of his soul into this final stand. Suddenly, Ingen's shadow creature slams him right into the dirt. But he fights back, pouring everything into one last desperate counter. Ingen slips right through the strike as if he were a ghost. Chaos growls that heavy smoker did not give his life for nothing. He stabs right through the beast's hand, asking if the sacrifice was worth it. Ingen silently looks down at the blade, then glares back at him. A heavy crack splits Chaos's armor as his remaining energy starts to fade. His power is totally dry. Defeat is staring him down. Deep down, he knows this cruel world makes no sense. To give absolutely everything only to end up a complete failure. Ingen coldly remarks that things might be different if his clan had helped. Sure, that's just a guess, but he still respects the guy's sheer grit. But in the end, Ingen notes, none of it mattered anyway. It all came to nothing. Reaching out his hand, Ingen speaks. This place is absolute hell, the dumping ground for the scum of the earth. And in this dark pit, any act of good gets brutally punished. He raises his blade for the execution. The ruined city falls dead silent. Iwa picks her way through the shattered streets, tight grip on her sword. She snaps her head around. Far off, Rachel is waving from the rubble. Sitting high on a pile of concrete, she grins, glad she is still in one piece. Walking up, Iwa tells her she looks like absolute trash. Rachel just laughs and brushes it off like it's no big deal. Iwa silently stares, then out of nowhere, Rachel strikes. Iwa leaps back in a flash, parrying the sudden blow with her blade. She drops her guard and casually reaches inside her jacket. She holds something out, asking her if she wants a bite. It is just a protein bar. Right then, a massive blast shakes the sky. Rachel watches the distant smoke, totally amazed by the sheer scale. She turns to Iwa and points toward the chaotic horizon. She asks her if she really thinks she can reach that tier. Iwa has zero doubt it won't take long for her to get there. Suddenly, Vector shows up. He is dragging Sharpshooter's dead body. He begs them for some help since they are just standing around. Iwa looks down, casually asking what the dead girl's name was. Rachel admits she completely forgot, telling Vector to stop his crying. Iwa takes Sharpshooter's cold body from Vector's arms. She stares down, a brief memory of the girl, fierce and armed, flashes. An image of the girl, ready for combat, flickers briefly in her mind. Suddenly, Iwa tosses the corpse aside, leaving Rachel to scream out why. Why did you throw her? Iwa shrugged, she just got annoyed. Vector shifted the topic to Nash. Rachel assumed he was dead. He never showed. Down below, John Nash's body began to melt. It dissolved into a sticky puddle. A mysterious voice questioned her. He mocked the corpse. He did not live up to his famous namesake. Staring at a passed-out girl, Iwa asked why she was still alive. Vector explained it was simply Engine's order. She would survive this day. She won't wake up for 12 hours. Vector quickly shifted topics. Their work was nearly done. Meanwhile, Chaos was taking a beating. Chaos was repeatedly stabbed. Vector suggested they should wrap things up. Rachel cheered happily. Finally, she could go home, shower, and get her gift. Suddenly, I twitched. Hold on, she sensed danger. Something was coming. With a dark glare, Engine barked an order. Move, he growled, raising his massive blade for a final strike. Down below, Chaos's hand twitched. He struggled to stand, screaming out. He roared that it wasn't over, but Engine ruthlessly impaled him. Chaos froze, dead silent. Engine stared down with completely frozen eyes. He muttered that he wanted to end this quickly and painlessly. Why do you still cling to life? Chaos kept dead quiet. Using his teeth, Chaos pulled off his gloves. No more running. He gripped his chest device. It started glowing as screens activated. The self-destruction sequence was live. Chaos laid it all out. If he detonated it now, not even Engine would survive. He absolutely needed his enemy dead, but a red warning flashed. Access denied. Stunned by the system failure, panic set in. He wondered if his armor was too broken to boot up. Realizing his luck had completely run out, a strange wave of energy exploded. The light faded into nothingness. He whispered, asking if this was it. Suddenly, a mystery hand slammed a button, overriding the entire countdown. A voice apologized to Chaos. Unison refused to let him die. Clasping her hands together, she desperately begged him to hold on. Boom, a massive explosion rocked the sky. Out stepped Hecate. A voice urged her not to be late. Chaos looked up. Gripping her heavy mace, Hecate grinned, arriving just in time. Engine instantly recognized her as Butcher, but she shook her head. She goes by Hecate now. With a loud crash, he blocked her. Engine quickly raised his hand, stopping her blade right in its tracks. Staring at the dropped weapon, he realized what her presence meant. High above them, Victoria materialized out of the thin air. Instantly, the black sphere shattered. Victoria slowly raised her hand. She whispered that it was finally time for them to say goodbye. It will be a beautiful dream, she muttered, delivering the blow. Meanwhile, across the divided city, panicked citizens fled from their homes. A bandaged man pushed through the chaotic crowd, drawing a guard's attention. The soldier demanded to know why he was lagging behind everyone else. With the civilians already evacuated, one soldier wonders if they are safe. He asks about District 17, falling completely into the villain's hands. But the bandaged soldier snaps that this has nothing to do with them. Besides, he is sure the heroes will crush any threat anyway. Suddenly, Victoria appears by some wooden crates, calling out to a guard. She delivers a sudden order to evacuate the citizens and immediately withdraw. Right before their eyes, her clothing transforms into a glowing battle suit. She commands them to run as far as they can, but the bandaged guard refuses. He urges them to fall back, no dying for nothing. But his partner tells him to wait, pointing up to the sky. He asks what that is as a colossal structure begins to plunge. Victoria hurls her massive sword straight at Enon below. Enon watches it fall, muttering her name as he realizes her play. He grumbles that his ally definitely left him out of this plan, referring to the amateur in the red jacket, leaving Iwa totally lost. Meanwhile, Hecate carries Chaos through the empty streets to escape the madness. Enon strikes at Victoria, but she blocks the attack without any effort. She mockingly asks if he really thinks he stands a chance in daylight. You cannot beat me even at night, she states, calling him foolish. Now watch, she's about to show him who is really in charge. A giant glowing sword appears in the sky, and a massive explosion erupts. The shockwave blasts outward, shattering nearby buildings and throwing heavy debris. A blinding flash, it completely consumes the entire street. Heavy rocks rain down as a massive fissure cracks open the street. The ruined ground continues to crumble under the weight of her power. Iwa rises slowly from the rubble, and Rachel Sinclair waves behind her. Vector is there too, leaning weakly against a broken metal beam. Iwa desperately digs through the ruins until the three are finally reunited. She grabs both of them tightly, shielding them from the falling stones. Looking up, she remembers how she managed to stay calm under pressure. Now Vector asks what she is searching for, guessing it is the sniper. But she points toward the enemy instead, demanding to know where her sword is. Rachel suddenly appears holding the blade, saying she has it right here. Iwa grabs her weapon, holding Vector's gift, which she did not want to show. Honestly, she really hoped to keep this weapon hidden for much longer. Suddenly, Vector screams for her to stop, imagining a truly terrible outcome. Rachel is left completely confused, but quickly urges them onward. There is no time to chat. We must get out of here, she warns. She adds that they also need to rescue Enon from the cliff's edge. Near the edge, a bloody Enon gasps as Victoria slowly floats down. Standing over him, she mocks that crawling like an insect suits him well. Then she asks why he even bothered to return, knowing how this ends. Enon spits that she already knows why, declaring his plan to win. I came back to destroy the clan and kill you, he growls. Amused, she lifts him into the air, asking if he actually believes that. Jen asks why she is stopping him, insisting they both want the same thing. He points out that as long as the Steel Witch lives, Victoria can never be the strongest. Victoria just stares at him in silence. Then, a massive explosion of energy erupts around them. Victoria coldly declares the Steel Witch is already gone. But Jen fires back, claiming the witch simply chose to hide. Furious, Victoria orders him to shut up. She insists she can win alone, while Jen laments their ruined partnership. He reflects on his past defeat, realizing he can no longer fight this war alone. Just as Jen mentions his insurance, a tense question hangs in the air. Did he forget whose territory this is? Jen just smiles, announcing the final piece of his puzzle has arrived. He asks who she thinks trained the girl in red. In the ruined city, Iwa stretches. Bending low over the shattered ground, her eyes lock onto the distant horizon. Victoria and Jen keep confronting each other, while Iwa feels lost. Neither is going to die soon. Besides, Jen cannot die yet, he still owes her some answers. Iwa turns to Vector and Rachel, ordering them to retrieve Jen first. She plans to distract the others. Vector offers to use his teleportation from afar, but Iwa refuses. Victoria is way too fast, and you just know any false move means instant death. Vector is left wondering how Iwa seems to know Victoria so well. Suddenly, Rachel whips a branch of flowers through the air, smacking Vector. Shocked, Vector asks what that was for. She notes that since he couldn't even dodge that, running is their best bet. Vector sighs and agrees, quickly extending his hand to open a portal. But he suddenly hesitates. That is when Iwa warns them that their connection is rapidly fading. Suddenly, Hecate drops from the sky, brandishing her massive weapon. Landing with a devastating crash, she slams her blade right before Iwa. Wearing a playful smile, Hecate greets them and apologizes for the abrupt entrance. And get this, she cheerfully explains she is ordered to capture every single one of them. No choice, Iwa and Hecate charge headfirst into each other. Their collision triggers a massive shockwave, blasting them both backward. Watching from afar, the wheelchair-bound elder, Yushin, notes she is in trouble. Iwa cries out to her former master. But Yushin tells her to skip the talk and focus on the battle. Iwa immediately pivots back to her allies, who are waiting anxiously. Snatching her fallen sword off the ground, she prepares to make a run. Carrying Rachel, Iwa sprints away with Vector, shouting at them to run. Meanwhile, Hecate approaches Yushin, glad he is alive but noticing his missing legs. Yushin notes it has been a long time, asking if she joined the hero clan. Gently tapping his sheathed blade, he challenges her to make her final choice. Hecate stares in utter confusion, but Yushin insists his fighting days are over. With his legs gone, his formidable strength is severely weakened. With a smirk, Yushin figures Hecate must think this is her big chance. Unfazed by his words, Hecate tightens her grip on her weapon. She scoffs, saying she is not foolish enough to fight an elder head-on. Instead, the simple command is given for her to take him too. Victoria, cold wind sweeps across the silent, barren wasteland as the wheels of the wheelchair roll forward. Victoria asks Jen if he enjoyed playing hero. Out there, suddenly, Yushin lunges forward from his wheelchair to strike with a lightning-fast blow. Victoria blocks it cleanly, then shifts her gaze to the side where Iwa arrives to support the wounded Jen. A rift opens behind them. From afar, Victoria calls out to Yushin. A voice replies that it has been a long time as he brushes his hair. She immediately accuses him of being the mastermind behind everything that happened. Yushin calmly defends himself, claiming he was merely helping Jen's plan. Tired of the useless talk, Victoria summons her glowing sword. She reminds him that he has some explaining to do. Crossing her arms, she orders. him to speak, Yushin asks if she is not curious about what triggered it, and why Jen decided to cause such chaos instead of waiting a bit longer. Victoria tells him to get straight to the point, so Yushin explains that the assault on District 17 was never a declaration of war against the hero clan. Instead, it was a message aimed directly at other villains. It announced that the Nameless are the new generation, ready to take over. Now they will play on a massive scale, high in a freezing landscape, a lone figure climbs a steep cliff. The wanderers, the outcasts, and those who have been waiting for the perfect moment are finally ready. They want to leave their mark on history as hidden elders and hidden players rise to the stage. At the very center, two legends will clash. Victoria agrees that blood will flow as the wheel of fate turns once more. But Yushin asks what any of this has to do with them. Hearing this, Victoria throws her head back and bursts into laughter before collecting herself and agreeing that he has a point. Gripping her sword, she smiles. This is going to be fun. Besides, someone must pay for interrupting her. She tells Yushin that Hecate is more than enough to handle his current, crippled state despite his terrifying past. She asks if he is ready, and his answer is immediate. Yushin unsheathes his sword, slashing his own hand without a single hesitation. He will do absolutely anything to protect his disciple. Crimson blood coats his blade as he declares that the hero killer will avenge him. Suddenly, the blood morphs into a storm of weapons, raining down upon Victoria. She stands ready, her blade already poised to deflect the oncoming barrage. With one powerful sweep, she shatters the storm of blades. Suddenly, a sword appears plunged into the ground by Yushin, moving incredibly fast. His wheelchair drives him forward to land a deadly side strike against Victoria. She blocks the initial blow, but another hidden blade slides through. It pierces her arm. Raising his arms, Yushin manipulates the very ground beneath, forcing Victoria to leap back, far away from this brutal clash, and Olden stands peaceful against the horizon, sunlight streaming through its quiet windows. Vector slept soundly on a wooden table inside, his mask resting right beside him. Nearby, Rachel slept deeply in bed, while Jen rested on a sofa, shielding his face. With the fight likely over, Iwa lit the stove to prepare a hot meal. While boiling some noodles, she figured Victoria must really be the strongest hero around. And as for the old man, he was probably just bragging about his glory days. Still, she wondered if he would be okay alone. Then again, he surely would. Eating straight from the pot, she shrugged it off, but a sudden voice interrupted her. A voice declared it was going to kill her, making Iwa spin toward the entrance. The exact same threat echoed from the doorway once more as she peeked over. Standing right at the entrance was John Nash, endlessly repeating his ridiculous warning. Wait, look closely here. Her shock quickly turns into absolute, hilarious disbelief. He was just a child now. She raised a hand, measuring her height against him. Later on, Vector checked her over and assured her that her body seemed perfectly fine. He said there was absolutely nothing to worry about, and the same went for Sinclair. Both were incredibly tough. Sitting down, Iwa asked what was so weird. Vector looked up as Jen stepped inside, calling out to the hero killer. He stood there at the entrance and simply asked if she had a minute. They walked down a quiet corridor, Iwa following closely behind. She noted he seemed quite excited, asking if everything went according to plan. Perhaps was the only vague answer Jen gave as they kept walking. Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks, directly confronting him for keeping secrets. He had hidden the fact that he and the old man already knew Victoria. Jen offered a temporary truce, saying he wanted to talk about her older sister. He began explaining by mapping out the hidden layers of the hero clan. There are countless lesser branches, area guards, and deep clandestine heroes operating in secret. But then he reminded her of a far more dangerous, lesser-known faction. And with a dark smile, Jen drops a name that changes everything, the Black Hand. Iwa repeated the name in surprise, as Jen explained exactly who they were. They were the brutal executive arm of the hero clan's secret intelligence agency. Guarding deep secrets, they handled all the dirty work, like high-profile assassinations. They ran all the shadowy dealings. If her sister was that powerful, he would know. There was simply no way a heroine of her caliber could go completely unnoticed. He concluded there was a very strong chance her sister was a Black Hand agent. A flashback hit Iwa, reminding her of a handshake with that enigmatic figure. Back in the present, Jen stepped up to Iwa, proposing a new agreement. He explained that his small group, the Nameless, could not fight alone. Taking on powerful monsters by themselves was just too difficult. But with their last operation, they had successfully sparked a massive bonfire. Now, with District 17 collapsing, hidden villains would finally begin to emerge. Jen knew some would admire their rebellion, while others would absolutely hate it. "And I will make them all kneel," he declared as Iwa quietly watched. She understood the stakes perfectly, asking what exactly he wanted in return. Jen admitted he knew Victoria never cared about the hero clan from day one. She only chased her own amusement, meaning she would likely ignore this entire incident. And those weak, fragile ties they shared would easily crumble under pressure. Moving between districts protects her identity, and Jen hand-delivers some files. These documents state that she is the only one who can run this plan. A massive recruitment drive for the hero clan is about to begin. Jen smiles, telling the deadly hero killer that she must play along and become a hero. Iwa stands right up, questioning what that means while practically refusing the offer. After all, she already holds the keyword and Chaos's ID card. To reach the clan's main terminal, she has to infiltrate a branch. This could be the perfect chance Iwa has been waiting for. She can easily kill two birds with one stone on this mission. So she asks Jen what her reward is, but he quickly warns her. She's stepping directly into the lion's den, but he makes a promise. If she ever needs backup, he will fight beside her, securing her agreement. Iwa offers to act as his spy, but only if he does one more favor. Jen asks what she wants, and she bluntly demands he covers her expenses. Cold hard cash. Soon, the station intercom announces the train's departure. The Victoria Express is pulling in, wishing passengers a very pleasant journey. Already seated inside, Iwa watches the passing landscape fly by. They are heading to District 15, and she knows it won't be easy. Meanwhile, in a dark train compartment, a mysterious figure guns down two men. He coolly wishes them a nice trip before the scene shifts to Dust City. This is District 17, a place scarred by the horrors of the war. Much of the city remains in ruins. With her bags packed, Iwa readies herself. A quiet feeling of farewell washes over her as she departs. Right now, her absolute biggest problem is her fiercely growling stomach. Relaxing in her chair, she looks down at a glittering bar of gold. It is a quiet reminder of Jen's promise before she left. He mentioned his group would follow soon, asking her to take the first step. Back in the present, Iwa pulls something out of her paper shopping bag. It is a cute bee-themed hoodie. Suddenly, Rachel Sinclair appears, holding Tiny John. The two best friends warmly hug, and Rachel promises to catch up soon. She even brought a little parting gift. Once alone again, Iwa pulls out the box. Wondering what it is, Vector's voice suddenly chimes in with an explanation. Apparently, it is a local treat, perfect for satisfying her train hunger. Inside are several delicious, warm fish-shaped buns. She does not hesitate. Iwa takes a massive bite, just as the cabin door slowly creaks open. Out slides a sleek black cat. Iwa quickly glances behind her as it moves. Its tail flicks back and forth, its yellow eyes locking onto her. With a sudden leap, its sharp claws swipe out, but Iwa easily dodges. The cat pauses, licking its paw as its fur bristles under her gaze. Suddenly, as it leaps again, a hand grabs the feline out of midair. The stranger gently places the cat inside a carrier, whispering for it to relax. He turns to Iwa, asking if she is okay, and she quickly nods. She admits she likes his style. He hands over a sleek business card. He tells her to relax, prompting Iwa to ask if he is some kind of reporter. The man smiles, introducing himself simply as Phil, and asks her a question. Phil mentioned she was from Dust City and wanted a chat. Her response was curt, not on an empty stomach. Phil proudly introduced the train as the Victoria Express, a steam locomotive with the latest tech. He explained that it was highly efficient and remarkably practical, then asked for her opinion. Later, they sat down with tea and a delicious fruit tart. Iwa remarked that she really enjoyed the strawberry cake, but Phil pressed for a serious answer. Now that she had been fed, he reminded her he already shared details about the fools who attacked the clan headquarters and were now on the run. He added that as a reporter, he should know more about this than a mere bystander like her. He let out a sigh, then admitted that to be honest, he had not gathered much from his journey. Phil brought up the enormous hole that had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, noting that all the guards kept absolute secrecy about it. Iwa, however, claimed to know nothing, saying she had been far too afraid to even approach the Sight, Phil wondered if he made a mistake, as he had trusted his instincts that she would possess crucial information, and those instincts had never failed him before. He then turned his gaze to the passing scenery. Outside the window, suddenly the train braked abruptly. She deduced that something was amiss in the engine room, and more than one crew member must be involved. Phil's eyes lit up. Talk about landing a massive scoop. A robbery was underway, and he finally had his story. In a corridor, a man grumbled about being too busy for this. Suddenly, the door was forcefully struck, followed by a demand to open up. A threat warned it would be broken down if they refused. A man in a suit opened the door, calmly asking what they wanted. The assailant confronted him but hesitated, questioning if he was truly the engineer. The man in the suit gripped his face, asking what he would do if he was not the engineer. With a swift, brutal motion, the man in the suit ended the attacker's life. The other two passengers fled the scene. Terror, the man in the suit casually remarked he killed him for being too loud, then asked if he should pursue the others, seated in a chair. Man affirmed they were slightly ahead of schedule, but ready to begin. He then addressed the train's microphone, wishing the passengers a pleasant journey. His tone shifted, expressing regret as he informed them that from that moment forward, the Victoria Express was under the control of Vendetta. Their demand was simple. They requested that the hero known as Bare Knuckles be brought to the engine room. The passengers had 1 hour to comply. If they did, the train would be spared, otherwise everyone on board would perish. In the dining car, an armed man fired, shouting for everyone to clear the way and get down. Phil immediately sought cover. He called out to Iwa, who remained calmly seated, asking what she was doing. Iwa slowly stood up from her chair, taking a single step toward the armed men. A woman in a suit pointed her gun at Iwa, demanding to know who she was. Iwa began to introduce herself as the hero killer. In a flashback, a voice affirmed she was the only one capable of completing this specific mission during the new hero recruitment phase. It was a rare opportunity. She had said that was the only way to strike the clan where it really hurt, but back in the present, her speech was suddenly cut short as her hand instinctively reached for her chest. Iwa boldly announced that she was an aspiring hero, but the woman did not care. She pulled the trigger, firing straight at Iwa. Iwa watched the bullet whiz right past. Dodging to the side in a blur, she kicked a table toward the non-stop gunfire, vaulting over seats and tables to dodge the barrage in one massive leap. Iwa closed the distance instantly, striking with a swift kick to her stomach. The brutal impact sent the woman stumbling back, but before she could hit the floor, Iwa grabbed her by the collar and slammed her down hard. Iwa stood over her, calmly brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Terrified passengers slowly peeked over their seats as Phil stood up nearby. A witness muttered that it was incredible, while a reporter demanded to know her name. Crowds began to crowd around, asking if she was a gifted hero. And if the danger had passed, Phil watched it all, doubting his own eyes. Now check this out. She did not even blink, with a gun right in her face. That kind of cold reaction was not normal, his gut told him. There was something deeply unnatural about this girl, but she also brought danger, warning him not to let his guard down or be fooled. So he chose caution, keeping his guard up. Phil slowly adjusted his hat, trying to play it cool. He asked what the plan was, and Iwa replied she would eliminate every villain. She pointed out that their leader was probably up in the engine room. It is a simple job, she added. She would make her move. I will run along the roof, reach the front, and take them down. Cut off the head of the snake and the rest dies, but Phil asked about the hostages. Iwa snapped that it was none of his business, but quickly changed her tone, promising that she would obviously protect the innocent people, unless he had a better plan to offer. Phil sighed heavily at her attitude. Since she already had all the answers, he suggested checking the map first. He pointed out they were stuck near the very back of the train. Only 3 passenger cars remained behind them, followed by cargo. So the best move was clearing the rear before pushing toward the engine. Iwa agreed it was a solid, logical path, despite the extra effort. But she questioned if moving so slowly put the hostages in immediate danger. But Phil told her not to worry, since it was already part of his plan. Catherine would handle that side of things. Meanwhile, in another passenger car, tables were flipped over with a sword driven deep into the wood. A bored thug complained about keeping the kneeling hostages under control. Usually someone tried to act like a hero, but these crowds were too soft. He reached for his blade, but a man in a suit stopped him. He warned him against doing anything stupid. The boss ordered a temporary truce. No killing for 1 hour, a bound hostage watched. You have got to see this, the suited man asked him to do his trick. In an instant, the partner's face completely shifted and warped. The suited man explained it was a rare face-shifting power, but was interrupted. The man in the suit asks his companion if they heard a strange noise. He suddenly barks, "Get lost." He is tired of being treated like a toy. With that, the man simply walks off. He heads straight toward the door. Suddenly, suspicion hits him. The silence inside is somehow too heavy. He steps closer to peer inside. Meanwhile, a black cat scratches the door. As he enters, he wonders, why is this train car completely empty? Little does he know, Awa is watching him. She hangs from the ceiling. A strip of fabric suddenly wraps around his neck. It tightens instantly. He drops unconscious. Phil announces the rear is clear, but adds a warning. Before reaching the engine room, he has a request. Awa asks what he wants. Phil admits the plan has gone smoothly. It is all thanks to her. But he warns her, do not underestimate this group called Vendetta. While the grunts are nothing, they have some serious heavy hitters. First up is their leader, Takata. The man is incredibly dangerous. Phil explains his past. He has broken out of several prisons already. His archenemy is Bare Knuckles. This hijacking, it is pure revenge. After all, Bare Knuckles was the very hero who put him away first. Unlike other villains, Takata actually cares about his crew. He holds grudges. He never forgets a face. Phil also mentions his right hand, Scar. This guy is equally deadly. He has reportedly killed more than his boss. That includes 1 or 2 heroes. Plus, he has a massive temper. I do not need his life story. Awa cuts in. What are their gifts? Just then the wall explodes. Scar makes a brutal entrance. He steps through. What are you doing with my toy? He growls. A strange appendage shoots out. Awa blocks it with a heavy kick. Surprised, Scar notes she is clearly not Bare Knuckles. Passengers are too close. Awa decides to move the battle elsewhere. Scar snaps that ignoring people is rude, launching another fast strike. Awa leaps right over the attack. You are just a starfish, she retorts. She drives a solid kick into his face, landing gracefully on the floor. She turns around. You are Scar, she says, identifying him. He laughs. His name comes from his habit of scarring corpses. Awa promises to scar his face next. Follow me to the roof, she challenges. With that, she leaps out the window, running along the moving train. She knows he will chase. An arrogant jerk like him cannot resist. Right on cue, a furious Scar smashes through. He falls right into her trap. He lunges straight at her, but Awa slides upside down to easily dodge. Scar stares in absolute shock. This is getting pretty interesting. The chase rages on. He strikes again out of pure frustration. Scar finally stops, looking around wildly. She has completely vanished. Meanwhile, in a flashback, Awa mentions to Vector that things feel strange. Vector asks why, remembering he could not give her an answer back then. John Nash had interrupted them, forcing Vector to review her data later. He studied her bone density, strength, and those abnormally high energy levels. He remembers her crushing Chaos and Viper, completely surpassing them. He realized this was way beyond what anyone could achieve with just basic training. Vector suspected Yua wasn't just stealing gifts, she was taking their whole status. Either way, her incredible growth rate was terrifying. He thought about Yuzan, the Dust City demon who had finally taken a student. Engine was told that Vector finally understood why they risked so much for this alliance. Still, he warned him to be extremely careful. Meanwhile, a single flower bloomed. Inside the lab, flowers grew on Vector's head as Rachel walked in laughing. Giggling, she asked if he was done, adding that the other girl must be fine. Vector shook his head, he didn't know. Meanwhile, Yua hoped she hadn't caused trouble, right before realizing what a starfish tasted like. Staring up, she realized that attacking those giant tentacles did absolutely nothing. Scar's body was completely unharmed, making her wonder if they just regenerated. Suddenly, Scar appeared and asked if she was alone, and she nodded. She asked why he cared. He just ignored her question. How had she managed to clear over 10 train cars completely by herself so fast? Yua didn't care if he believed her, and Scar said he didn't either. He didn't care about the others, but saw it in her eyes. Claiming they were exactly the same, he watched as Yua calmly wiped her hands. She asked if he really wanted the answer, then lunged straight at him. Just watch, she completely blitzes right past his side. She slammed a heavy fist into his chest, blasting him sliding across the roof. Yua sprinted along the side of the train, planning her next move. She briefly thought about using his weird appendages, but rejected the idea.